Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Snetterton, East England, Norwich. This is the NXTGEN Racing MX5 Cup, and this is round 8 of the championship, where we have had a brilliant season so far. Every race that has passed by so far this season has been exceptional, dramatic, and full of great racing. Tonight, you join us here at Snetterton for the 8th round of the championship. My name is Alex Everett on behalf of Crest Autosport, and alongside me, as always, it is Paul Walsh, who also commentates on the NXTGEN ACC Tuesdays and the GT3s on Wednesdays. Paul, welcome along, you busy man.
Oh, indeed, Alex, but it's good to be here once again. And how are you doing today, my good friend?
Very good, raring to go. You know what, last time out at Monza was one of those races where you really do look at a series and you think, I'm glad to be involved in this, even if you're not driving, watching it as a spectator or as a commentator. It's just one of those races where you thought, yeah, this is why we do it.
Oh, indeed, it was absolutely fantastic. And Monza very unpredictable across all three races. And, well, I wonder if it's going to be the case today at Snetterton, where we're going to be seeing even more unpredictability, because this circuit does not take any prisoners, does it?
No, absolutely not. Reconstructed quite some time ago. This is the new layout of Snetterton we know of right now, and it's quite a long layout nowadays. Back in the day, I remember the old layout of Snetterton, which is now referred to as the 200 layout from the 90s. British touring cars, but nowadays we know the layout as it is here on your screen right now, and we'll get a lap of the track very shortly. Very famous track, in fact, built in the 50s. Snetterton actually hosts the most British racing series as one of the UK's most popular facilities. Quite the venue, not too far from London, only 100 miles northeast of London. It's about 20 miles southwest of Norwich City. But yeah, tonight's venue here, we're back in the UK, and it'll be the final time we're in the UK for the series, third visit to the UK, and then we're off over to other venues as the season goes by, and the next round of the championship will be at Zandvoort. But all them weeks ago we started off at Silverstone National Circuit. It feels like a very long time ago. In fact, it was 2 months ago from yesterday we were at Silverstone National Circuit. And then we headed over to the then new Knockhill International Circuit in Scotland. Over to Austria, the Styrian Mountains for the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix Circuit. Then we headed over the Atlantic to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, aka Montreal, for round 4 of the championship to see us into the new year. Daytona Road Course hosted round 5 of the championship. Draft City, we called it, as it was the host of some very close finishes and great high-pace racing. Bathurst Round 6 was the technical track, the tricky one, up the mountain and back down the mountain, along the long straights on the iconic Australian track. Round 6 of the championship was there in Australia at Bathurst, and then round 7 of the championship, of course, was last week, and it was probably the source of the most drama we've seen all season, particularly two drivers in particular, which I'm sure we'll bring up at some point during the night. But yeah, what a great round that was. If you have a chance after tonight's broadcast, do go back and check Monza. Go back and check out all the broadcasts. It's been one hell of a season so far. Today we're here at Snetterton, the 300 layout, and then next week we are off to Zandvoort in the Netherlands for the 9th round of the championship. And then the final 3 rounds of the championship, well, as iconic as tracks can be, it doesn't get much more iconic than the final 3 rounds of the championship here. Interlagos in Brazil will host round 10 of the championship, and then we'll head up to the States, California State in particular, for the Long Beach Street Circuit. Quite the innovative track on iRacing, one of few, in fact it's one of few street circuits on iRacing. Street circuits are quite rare in sim racing, so it is quite the circuit to visit on iRacing is Long Beach, and that'll host round 11 the championship. And then the final round will be something different, but it will be on the enormous Nürburgring Nordschleife circuit, and it'll be a 2-hour endurance to add to that. No 3-race format like we've seen today, and for the other races of the season, this will be a 2-hour endurance with double points on offer, so a very crucial round of the championship indeed. But what about the format for the races this evening? Well, we have qualifying coming up in about approximately 5 minutes time, which will be a 15-minute session. And then following almost immediately after the qualifying session will be race 1, a 15-minute sprint race. Race 2 will follow race 1, and it will be a top 12 reverse grid. So the top 12 finishers of race 1 will form the grid for race 2 of the night. And again, it will be a 15-minute sprint race. Race 3 will be a full reverse grid, so all the finishers of race 2 will be reversed to form the grid for race 3, and it'll be a 25-minute feature race, so a slightly longer race where tyres have got an important factor to play in that race. So that's the format you're going to see for the racing tonight. We also have 3 categories to keep an eye on, and we'll go through the championship standings for those categories. But to explain to those people who might be new to this broadcast, 3 categories in this championship to separate drivers so they can have their own championship. So it means if you're at the lower end of the field, you are still fighting for a championship nonetheless. We have the pro category, which consists of drivers with higher iRating, and iRating is the system that iRacing use to rank drivers. Drivers who are higher up in that ranking are put into the pro category, as well as real life drivers. Of course, we have drivers such as Liam McNeely, William Chadwick, Mikey Doble, Bobby Thompson, etc. in that category. The Pro-Am category are drivers who are a little bit more recreational sim racers, drivers who are not necessarily as experienced as those pro drivers, but they are considered the middle category in these category sections. And then we have the AM class, which are drivers who are considered to have less experience and a lower iRating, but they have their own championship, as we've mentioned, to contend in, and it is as competitive as the other categories. So a lot to keep an eye on in this Next Gen Racing MX5 series. And Paul, what we saw last week was drama at the source of any drama. It was Deegan Fairclough and Mikey Doble really presenting the entertainment to us, I'm going to say. But Monza last week surely did give us a bit of a case of what can happen in this series and what we could see going on further into the series for the remaining rounds. It's getting quite tense when it comes to the championship.
Oh, indeed, Alex. And the thing is as well, when we look back and saw what happened at Monza, it's again, when we heard our post-race interviews from both what was Deegan Fairclough and also Mikey Doble, 2 different perspectives on the situation, where Deegan Fairclough, of course, having joined the series a little bit later on compared to the start, and whilst he may not be a quote-unquote championship contender, at the same time wanting to pick up those great results, of course, battling within the pro category, albeit I think he's having some difficulty in getting to the circuit tonight. He's still trying to join into lobby, as we currently understand. But for some drivers there, it's almost as if it's just salt on their shoulder, no dust off their own back, and they just want to go all in racing. Whereas meanwhile, our major championship contenders such as Mikey Doble know that every result is so critical and they can't afford to be involved in incidents now that we are heading towards the final quarter. But we're a little bit away from that at the moment. Of course, we are at this point in time midway through what is the second half of the season. So it does end up with that complexion now. There's a number of established names, and it's not just within the pro class, also the pro-am class, and to a lesser extent in the am class as well. We do have that mixture now where you've got some of those drivers who are new at 30, just have not had great results, but they're picking up pace. Now they want a chance of being all the way up there on the top step of the podium in their class, and they'll do anything in order to take it within fair grounds, of course. And I think Snetterton, well, is one of those circuits which does reward that style of driving, to be fair. This circuit consisting of 13 corners and the 300 layout, and there's a whole variety of corners here, and also it is the case that we do have quite a few connecting straights, some very short, some very long, particularly the Bentley straight, the back straight that connects turn 8, Williams, all the way out to Brundle corner at turn number 9, and of course we'll be going through the circuit and the layout a little bit later on. We're going to the qualifying session, but I do think we are going to see some quite elbows out racing. But be fair, if you ever tune into BTCC, British Touring Car Championship, around this circuit, I think many will know how elbows out it can be around here, given how tight it is through some of the midsection.
And if you are familiar with this series, the MX5 Cup, you'll know there's a lot of elbows out racing going on here as well. So plenty of exciting racing to watch. But very quickly before we, as we transition into qualifying, we'll go through the championship standings as they are coming into tonight. Now, this is without drop rounds, which will be implemented after round 11 of the championship. Now, drop rounds are the drivers' 2 worst scores of the 11 rounds from 1 to 11 that will be reverted to 0. So effectively, everyone will have 2 0 scores in their championship. But at the top, at the moment, it is Mikey Doble, top of the Pro Category Championship, and he is leading that just ahead of Adam Delmont, 17 points in front, in fact. Deegan Fairclough has put himself into 3rd place, just shy of 60 points behind Mikey Doble. And then just off the podium is Jamie Dury in 4th place. He's taken it away from Lee Holmes upon completion of Monza last time out. Lee Holmes in 5th place himself there. 6th place goes to Pete Newman, with Nick Clevens in 7th place, who had a pretty good outing at Monza. Ben Bennyworth in 8th place, with Ollie Peters in 9th, and rounding off the top 10 is Sam Smith. And we all have the Pro-Am category standings presented by Paul Walsh himself.
Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, so in the Pro-Am class it is Lee Horne leading going into this round by a margin now of 95 points after another strong display at Monza. The Next Gen Racing Orange driver now 95 points ahead of Nigel Stott. Nigel Stott having a good time at Monza and picking up some fantastic points now into 402, with 22 advantage over P3 man John Burnham. But could the MVR with Scoop Sim Racing driver come back strong tonight? Wayne Douglas and Crane Cockrell completing your top 5 there, and just outside the top 5 by a margin of what is 23 points. Liam Silkstone, who'll be looking to get some more points on the board tonight. The iRacing Swift Cooper driver, who really had the worst of luck at Monza. Everything seemed to go wrong when it was going so well, and will he be able to turn it around today? Glenn Humberstone in P7, ahead of Lewis Kent in P8, Aaron Thompson P9, and to complete your top 10 in the Pro-Am Championship, it is Mark Oliver on 238 points. Don't forget about him though, and he is trying to run away from Callum Jenkins on 214 behind.
And for the AM category standings, we haven't got as many drivers in this category, but it is still pretty exciting. But it's David Whitehouse who is really leading things at the moment. Excuse me, he is leading the category by over 100 points from Paul Scott, who has missed a few rounds. But Paul Scott is here this evening. Let's see if he can round up a few points and get himself back into contention. Tom Delaney in 3rd place. With Mark Arrowsmith, who's in the server today. Good to see him back. They're in 4th place. Liam Tack 5th, with Martin Smith 6th, Dustin Lamb 7th, Steve Thompson 8th, 9th is Simon Robson, and 10th is Jay Elliott. So they are the championship standings heading into tonight, and we are well and truly in qualifying now. We have a couple of new faces. William Chadwick is one of them, teammates with Liam McNeely, so the 2 drivers of Fordzilla are going to be a force to be reckoned with tonight, I'm sure. They were 2 of the quickest in the practice session just gone by. But what we are going to do now is give you a tour of this track of Snetterton, provided to you by Paul Walsh. Here we go.
As we ride on board with Liam McNeely here, making his way down the centre straight towards turn number 1, into the long right-hander here of Richards Corner. Trowell breaking its way in. You'll see there's 2 apex curbs here. There's the first one, and then there's the second. Aiming forwards, that tight run through the second apex. Now charging all the way down towards turn 2. Montreal Corner, it used to be known, but now known as what is the Justin Wilson Corner, in tribute to the late IndyCar and Formula 1 driver. And as he makes his way out of the hairpin, one of the slidest courses on the circuit, now we're going into the central section. Charging his way all the way down towards turn 3 into Palmer Corner, and a very difficult left-hander here given the fact the apex is quite late, but he gets it very sweet. And as he now makes his way on the exit curve there, the run down towards Agostini, and this is quite the long run, or it felt like it, as he builds his way up through the gearbox into 4th gear, and now braking all the way down into 1st gear as he goes to a left-hander Agostini slice corner on the circuit. Excellent now, and now charging up towards Hamilton Corner, turn number 5, as appropriately signposted on the right-hand side there. And as he makes his way in here, flicking onto the apex and getting back on the throttle, using as much run-up area as possible, but does go a little bit too wide there and rally crosses, and has to settle the rear of the car down as he goes into Oggie's turn number 6. A long right-hander with the right-hand kink of 7 there that follows it. That doesn't have a name as I understand it. And then coming into Williams Corner at turn number 8 here, and you've got to nail this exit perfectly, because now you've gone to the longest section of the circuit, and that is the Bentley straight, the long back straight, as he goes charging up towards the very tricky combination of Brundle and Nelson. Charging all the way down, he's moving over to the right here, heading up towards 5th gear as he heads underneath the overpass, and as he makes his way on in here into left-hander of Brundle, trailing the car and balancing throttle and brake, and now snapping on the brakes there as he goes through a Nelson Corner down in 1st gear, and as he charges in towards turn number 11, known as Bombhole Corner, and as he comes into dip, you can see why it's called Bombhole Corner, given how much the road depresses there and then jumps back up. You can see as he now flows into Coram, turn number 12, the very long right-hander here, which never seems to end, and then suddenly you're slapped in the face of the driver by the fact it goes into a left-hander with a braking zone, a sharp one, as he goes into Murray's turn 13, looking to drift that car through the apex, gets it nicely planted on the throttle, and now charging down the centre straight once again to complete the lap, and that is a lap of Snetterton 300, a very tricky circuit with plenty of technical aspects on display.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was noticing with Liam McNeely there is he was almost steering the car with the rear of the car. It's just one of those circuits where it's at such a high speed, and you need such almost little grip on the car to keep the car going as quick as possible through these corners. But we did see an invalid lap there from Liam McNeely and his teammate behind of William Chadwick, and I think that's Rob Mcgregor behind them as well. But we did see valid times from Adam Delmont and Mikey Doble there. Mikey Doble, our championship leader, and Adam Delmont currently second place in the championship. So Mikey Doble with a different number tonight, number 7, probably because 88 is taken by William Chadwick. He'll definitely want that back, or better still, Mikey Doble will be hunting for that number 1 on his door as the championship goes by. I'm sure that's what he is more focused on. But other drivers on the board at the moment. Lee Horne, well, what a season he has had so far, Paul. He's had a couple of three-peat wins this season. Monza didn't exactly go too well for him, but he still held a pretty sizable lead in the championship and holds a 95-point lead heading into tonight. This is a real big point in the championship for Lee, it's got to be said.
Indeed, and the thing about Lee Horne is where he hasn't necessarily always been the winner, although he has had a good set of wins, as you say, Alex. When he hasn't been on winning form, Lee Horne has always found a way to turn around an evening, and Monza was that demonstration. Races 1 and 2 did not work out. Race 3 was a much improved race, and that's the thing that he seems to have the advantage over the other Pro-Am drivers at the moment. He seems to find a way to pull results out of the bag, even when he's up against it. And what that means is, as we continue to go deeper and deeper into this season, that he really is the favourite in the Pro-Am class for the simple reason that he just seems to have that consistent point. So if you were to put it on a graph, you would see he's just able to keep a flat line, if not a constantly rising line with regards to points, whereas his peers around him, to be fair, they're all chasing after him feverishly, and we can see that with John Burnham right now only is 4 attempts down on Lee Horne's lap time in this qualifying session. But Lee Horne just seems to have something special about him with regards to his ability to pick up the points, and that is really a sign of a championship contender.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the points he scored per round. They range somewhere between 64 and 80 points. Bathurst, he managed 90 points. He got a three-peat of wins. But Monza last time out was the only round that actually dipped below 64 points all the way through the season. So it's that's why drop rounds do come in handy sometimes. If you do have one round that's a bit not so good compared to others, you can just use it as a write-off, and you can, if you maintain good high-scoring points rounds in other rounds, you've got those drop rounds to keep you safety. But he is at the top of the standings, 95-point lead. Lee Horne, who has won many a championship on Race Room, looking for his first iRacing title. As for the AM category, we've got a couple of drivers out there in the AM category, but it's David Whitehouse in our very most favourite livery on the track, the Duck Song livery, and he is top of the standings in the AM category championship, and he's also the only driver to have set a time on the board as he goes wide at Wilson's, then letting other cars go by. We'll pretend we didn't see that, Dave. But at the top of the standings, it is not who you might think. It's not the pro drivers. It is David Mcguire, and I remember David Mcguire from Daytona a few rounds ago. Now, he hasn't contended in many rounds this season, but Daytona in particular, he was especially quick, wasn't he, Paul?
He was indeed. I think Mcguire really just came out of nowhere and surprised the field. Indeed, as you say, Alex, he surprised us. And I think with Mcguire, he's one of those drivers whereby I think he does have that inner pace within him. Very fast driver. And I think that he's going to these circuits when he does turn up. I think these are circuits that really suit him, or perhaps some of his favourite circuits. And he's just showing off what he can exactly do. And some drivers are like that, to be fair. Here's the case in a 12-round calendar. Some drivers may be strong and consistent at all 12 circuits. Others may find that there's particular circuits on the calendar where they think, you know, I'll really aim for that one. I'll put all my practice into that particular round because that's one of my favourite circuits and I feel as though I've got the pace to show it. And to be fair, it's not uncommon to see a driver who's not necessarily frequent in the series, or as frequent as we perhaps like to see, suddenly come out of nowhere and come in blistering. But it is the case that whilst he may feel like a bit of a part-timer from the perspective of our more full-time racers, at the same time his presence on the circuit is very heavily valued by both us and also many of you in the audience, of course. Indeed, our drivers are very happy to see him on out there. I think Mcguire could throw a spanner in the works for some of our regular favourites tonight.
Absolutely, and we'll see as he comes across the line now. Will he improve his time? I don't think he has, actually. I think he did get a bit of an off-track during that lap, so this will be a new flying lap for him. But top of the standings at the moment, a long way clear of the nearest Pro-Am category rival, Craig Cockrell in 9th place. But as for those drivers in Pro-Am, they will not really care so much about David Mcguire. As we said, he hasn't taken part in too many rounds this season. He sits 14th in the standings on only 149 points as he's attended few rounds. So the drivers such as Craig Cockrell, who is 5th in the championship, and Lee Horne, who is 1st in the championship, won't mind him being up there so much. So they'll let him be. as for other drivers in the session at the moment, we are nearing the final third of this session. William Chadwick is the highest of the pro category drivers, new to the series today. Now, if you remember the Next Gen Legends series, you remember William Chadwick as he came along and almost blew everyone away, if I remember rightly. But he is teammates with the driver behind him, and that is Liam McNeely. And of course, we know Liam McNeely quite well in this MX-5 series now, as he got a three-peat of wins at Bathurst, and he also got 2 wins last time out at Monza. So not quite a 100% record, but race 2 last time out at Monza didn't quite go his way. But heaven forbid, Paul, he probably could have got that win if drama hadn't hit him.
Oh, indeed. And, well, we're saying there about the fact he's only picked up 5 wins out of 6 since he's joined the series. Yeah. We sound like pushy parents in terms of why is it not 100% in terms of 5-6? But it is the case that Manili, the Fortilla driver, well, he surprised at the Bathurst. He's shown great pace at what was Monza. And, well, looking at it right now, working with his teammate Chadwick. And as they come across that timeline, what's it going to be in terms of improvement? If it is, well, it is the case. We're getting up there on our screen. And he takes provisional pole there of everybody and in the pro class by almost 2 tenths of a second there. A bit of teamwork making the dream work, and to be fair, Chadwick and McNeely have been swapping places time and time again, and with this qualifying session now only 4 minutes away, as it does look as though, well, we've got quite a cluster building up into Wilson Corner here, and I think they're all just trying to navigate and get themselves into a pack. So I'm not hearing anything about a potential safety car coming out in qualifying. Well, we wouldn't expect it, and I'm not seeing any chaos out on circuit, but it is the case that these guys have been working together and placing themselves very well for what is race number 1. And I think that's the thing McNeely we're very wary of, is the fact that he's got a lot of pace out there, and if he can have a teammate with him right up there as well, the two of them could be indomitable.
Certainly, absolutely. And you did actually mention the safety cars. Well, we are going to be running safety cars a little bit differently tonight, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a manual safety car. That's the best way of describing it. But a guest driver will be joining us, and he will be driving the nominated safety car for tonight if a safety car is needed. And if we do have to call upon it, we will let you know what's going on, because I think we might be we're a little bit new to it as well, but we'll see what happens. But it's a nice new feature, and it's designed to, so the caution periods don't last as long as they have been in this series, because, for example, Monza race 1 last time, we had about 6 minutes downtime behind the safety car, and of course it doesn't make for great racing, the safety cars. Don't bring up Formula 1, don't bring up Formula 1. And it's purely designed to keep the racing interesting, so it's going to be for the good. And the admins and hosts behind the scenes working very hard to keep this series running and keep this series exciting, and they're doing a thoroughly good job at the moment. But back to qualifying, just want to mention Rob Mcgregor. Now, he was our driver of the day last week, and we interviewed him as well. Lovely chap, absolutely lovely chap. But 15th in the standings at the moment and 5th in qualifying. Now, Paul, he's always quiet in qualifying, but in the races he stays relatively quiet in the races as well, but he just pulls through and gets some great results, doesn't he?
Oh, he does indeed. And I think he's one of those drivers who, I think he's not too worried about qualifying. Obviously, he doesn't want to be all the way down towards the bottom of the field if he can help it. But I think the way he sees it, as though his racecraft is what enables him to get the points. Indeed, qualifying well will get you so far. Obviously, at different circuits, it may be the case that qualifying up towards the front will give you a major advantage, where overtaking is difficult. But here at Snetterton, with the 13 corners, I'd say you can at least call out 8 corners where there's great overtaking opportunities. And the fact that the lap time is just over 2 minutes, so if we do a bit of quick math there, we're looking at approximately 8 laps, unless we do have a safety car thrown in for good measure. But Mcgregor, I think, here will be keeping one eye on the prize in terms of those potential overtakes. And, well, he might be a silent but deadly striker in the form of the fact he just knows where to go for it on the brakes. And I think the Scotsman may, again, prove to be a very challenging come the latter portion of the night. I can imagine there's definitely a podium up for grabs for him at least one of these races.
Certainly. And he could have been a championship contender had he took part in all rounds all the way through the season. But he's here to entertain us nonetheless, and he is here to try and get up as many championship positions as he can. He's got quite a few rounds to go. He sits 13th in the standings, just ahead of David Mcguire, who we mentioned earlier on. But plenty of time to get up the standings and get himself towards that top 10, even towards that top 5. Who knows? Who knows? We'll find out as the season goes by. As we mentioned, there are quite a few rounds left to go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races, or 5 rounds to go, should I say. And that is 15 individual races. So we are getting towards the tail end of the season, week by week, of course. And it's getting very, very interesting. And the tracks themselves are also very interesting, which we'll go through a little bit later on as well. We are approaching the final end of qualifying here. So let's take a look at drivers coming across the line. Jamie Dory will be the first to take the checkered flag here. And right behind him is Lee Horne as well. Jamie Dory crosses the line, no time improvement, as was the same for Lee Horne behind him. Who else has just crossed the line? In fact, Liam McNeely has just finished his session, as has William Chadwick and Maurice Henry, and they haven't improved their time, so they'll stay first, third and fifth respectively. Who else have we got? 16th place in the overall. That is Ollie Peters of Crest Autosport crossing the line. Can he improve his time? 16th going into that lap, and he stays 16th, does Mr. Peters. Who else have we got on track? 19th overall, 7th in category. George Watson crosses the line. George Watson has missed a few rounds here and there this season, 12th in the championship, and he stays 19th as he crosses the line. So a lot of drivers struggling to improve their times. David Cunningham, it was his debut last time at Monza, and he did very well indeed. And an improvement on his time puts him up to 19th position and 7th in category. Who will be pleased about that? 27th, Paul Scott crosses the line. Does he improve his time? No, he doesn't. He stays quite low down in the order, but not last in the order. Actually, he did put himself up a little bit. He put himself up to 26th place. Good job from Paul Scott. 2nd in the championship. Nick Clevens has come into the pits. We also have Glenn Humberston, who might be on a flying lap here, as might be Sam Smith here of Simtech Racing, and I think Lee Holmes, who did hold the top 3 in the championship for quite a long time. He has conceded it as of Monza last time out, and it just seems that Paul, that Lee Holmes at this point in the season it is slipping away a little bit, and he really needs to get some good results in. Might he be able to put himself up the order in this race today?
Well, we'll have to wait and see whether first he comes across the line and improves from what is P8 overall, P6 in class, and he comes on across. It is no improvement for Lee Holmes, as I can see. It's going to be a difficult one for him. I think in his mind he may be feeling just a little bit of a grumble with the fact, as you say, things are not going his way in terms of that momentum, but still, multiple rounds to go. He can arrest the decline. I think it only takes one good round, and that will be turned around very quickly, because we know Lee Holmes has got a lot of pace under the hood of the 88 Tech machine. It just seems to be he hasn't quite had the opportunity to demonstrate it in the last couple of rounds. Perhaps it's been circuits that have not to his liking. I know that Monza is a bit of a chalk and cheese circuit, or a Marmite circuit. We could also say you either love it or you hate it, and well, I think it's the case that he makes his way around right now. He'll be thinking to himself, right, I've got a bit of work to do in the race number 1 because it hasn't worked out in qualifying.
Absolutely. And qualifying is over. Most drivers, in fact all drivers, have now taken the checkered flag, so the standings on our left are pretty much respective of what you're going to see for the grid coming up for this first race tonight. 29 drivers tonight, a big improvement from Monza. But I fear next week we might struggle for drivers, Paul, because it is Valentine's Day, and some people might be able to make it, some people definitely won't be able to make it, so we'll find out what the grid will be like next week. But it's going to be a tricky day for some of our drivers. But tonight it's looking very, very healthy indeed, and we will go through the grid ready for this first race of the night. Here is the grid. Liam McNeely took pole position with a 2-minute 5.6, and he is just shy of 2/10 ahead of David Mcguire, who is also first at the Pro-Am category. William Chadwick in 3rd position, and alongside him is our championship leader, Mikey Doble. Maurice Henry in 5th place with Adam Delmont in 6th position. Nick Clevens in 7th. Alongside him is Lee Holmes. On the 5th row is John Higgins with Jamie Dory alongside in 10th. Craig Cockrell is 2nd of the Pro-Am category with Matthew Addy, who has been a guest appearance for a lot of rounds this season, making a regular appearance now, but in 12th place, a good qualifying result for him. Lee Horne in 13th position with Sam Smith alongside him. Ben Bennyworth and Ollie Peters 15th and 16th. Rob Mcgregor and Nigel Stock will line up on the 9th row with David Cunningham and George Watson on the 10th row. 11th row taken up by Callum Jenkins and Matt Emmons. John Burnham and David Whitehouse take up the 12th row. And David Whitehouse first of the AM category. Mark Oliver in 25th with Mark Arrowsmith 26th, Paul Scott 27th, Glenn Humberston 28th, and Deegan Fairclough, who I don't think is in the server, 29th in the classification at the moment. But we're about to go for this opening race of the night. This is the NXTGEN Racing MX5 Cup, round 8 at Snetterton. What a round we have got ahead of us. I'm sure it's going to be great. And let's get ready. Engines starting to rev up as drivers are almost gridded up. And, well, what a round we could be expecting here. Very technical track, fast straights, and a lot of very twisty corners. But everyone has gridded up. We're about to get underway here. This is the first race of the night. 15-minute sprint race about to start now. And away we go. And it's a good start by the looks of it from Liam McNeely as he keeps to the inside of the track. Straight over to the right goes David Mcguire. Now over to the left goes Liam McNeely as we head into the first corner. Through we go. Drivers filtering through this very fast right-hander. Drivers going sideways and off the track. And there is already a driver getting a bit squirrely in the middle there. That is Ben Bennyworth, and out on the outside there, I think was Callum Jenkins. Into the hairpin of Wilson we go. And it is so tight through Wilson, and they've got to be so careful. Heading down towards turn 3 we go, and on the inside of Liam McNeely there is David Mcguire, nice and early, trying to get it up into that top spot, and Mikey Doble is already up into 3rd place, Paul.
Mikey Doble making a very strong start, gaining the positions earlier on as they make their way now into turn number 4, into Agostini. We'll see the field start to cluster up as I think Lee Horne is battling with Matthew Addy further down the road. But as they come charge on through and up towards Hamilton now, it will be the case we can see multiple 2 wides in effect in the mid-pack here, and a lot of drivers still trying to settle down into that order, because the thing is, right now, a lot of drivers will be feeling as though on those relatively cold tyres, and as they get them up to the temperature, they can try and capitalise on moves. But William Chadwick there having a little bit of a difficult start versus Mikey Doble, as we do have Callum Jenkins, who has been in the wars right at the start of this race. And as we take a look back, I think it may have been the case. It's gone a bit wrong as it looks like he was coming up in towards, unless I'm mistaken, into Agostini there. But as we now look back to our live pictures, we can see it's all what on earth has happened for back, and a caution has been thrown. I think we already have a caution and potentially a safety car coming out, but something major has happened there, Alex. I'm not sure what exactly has happened.
Oh yeah. As we're looking at a replay, a lot of events kicking up on our timing screen, and I'm trying to find where it all started, and we'll see if we can find it here. It might have started with something involving Adam Delmont. Let's take a look here. We're looking from Adam Delmont, who's in. We've got the green roll bar chassis there. Oh, and a spin just ahead. That was Maurice Henry. Adam Delmont is collected, and then it all just clusters up from there. Everyone collected in that incident almost. No avoiding for anyone.
No, and it was very unfortunate the way the sequence of events occurred. And well, I think Adam Delmont saw that Maurice Henry had lost the rear of the car, but as they came on through, it was the concertina effect as they made the way through Williams' corner. As we run on board here with Ollie Peters now, he won't have seen what's happening from his perspective until he comes out to the apex here. He's blind to it, and then suddenly, wham! There's just a war cars. And I believe fair, Ollie Peters trying to take evasive action, but in the end, as he did, well, everybody just coming into a major moment. But what was very interesting in particular, watch Adam Delmont here, and then watch his teammate behind, and this is the most unfortunate thing. If it weren't for that tiniest of little taps, they may have been able to navigate past it. I'm not saying the incident wouldn't have occurred, but it was just very unfortunate there. But I can understand his teammate behind probably thought, why are we slowing down here, Adam? Because there's nothing up front, until he then probably saw as he went round past his teammate, oh, I've just knocked you, Adam, into the car that's got a bit sideways. And then Maurice Henry, well, he seems to just be the passenger of his own car, and well, multiple drivers being affected there. But to be fair, very unfortunate for that to occur coming out of Williams' corner, not where we normally see instance, as that safety car has been pulled on out.
Yeah, and this could be a long safety car procedure, ladies and gentlemen. Now, what we mentioned just towards the start of this broadcast, I think our new safety car feature is going to be implemented for races 2 and 3, not race 1.
That's
we're
correct.
we're running with the regular safety car format, so we might be on this safety car for a fair amount of time. But what that does mean is when we go green, everyone is going to be hammered down going for it to get as high up as they can, because they've got less time to get towards the positions that they want at the top of the field. Now it's a little bit hard, it's a little bit unfair to tell at this point, but big movers so far with the half a lap we have had, or 1.5 laps we've had. David Whitehouse, our biggest mover, he got through all that drama. He has gained 13 places and finds himself in 11th place. And how many times have we said that sort of thing about Dave Whitehouse this season? And that might be why he's doing so well in the AM category championship, other than his pure skills, of course, but getting through the field and keeping his nose out of trouble. Or keeping his beak out of trouble, should I say.
Indeed, he does an absolutely quacking job in that machine. Oh, well, everybody's sighs in the audience now, I understand. But it's the case that Whitehouse seems to find a way to just simply, as you say, Alex, stay out of trouble. But also, he's just suddenly there. And it's fantastic to see. And I remember him saying that he's always wanted, as an AM driver in this series, to try and take the AM car as high as he possibly can. And, well, multiple times he has tried to even go for the win in a number of the more adverse races. And he scored, and I think he's even scored, one or two overall podiums. And well, Whitehouse definitely showing it is the case that even if you're an AM driver, you can have some absolutely spectacular results. And there is a good reason why he is our AM championship leader, is because he is putting in the effort time and time again. He's got a huge team behind him as well, and well, they are loving every minute of it. But also looking through the field there, Alex, look, we can see that Glenn Humberstone's gained at 10 places. He started right at the back. He's up into P18, and well, he'll be very pleased with that one. And also Mark Oliver as well, who's jumped 10 places up to P15 as they all come on around now up towards Cunningham corner, and a number of drivers, with the 88 Tech drivers in particular, having a very happy start to the race.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of drivers falling benefit to that instant on the second lap then, and there's a lot of drivers who haven't, sadly. Mark Arrowsmith, Lee Horne, George Watson, David Cunningham and Callum Jenkins are all drivers in the pits at the moment, and will probably be lapped here. Oh, actually, no, there's a couple of drivers heading out the pits here. So we switch cameras here. We've got Lee Horne heading out the pits, as well as George Watson. What about Mark Arrowsmith? Is he able to get out the pits? No, he's not, and it might well be that he gets lapped, which is really unfortunate for Mark Arrowsmith. A couple of other drivers heading out the pits. That's David Cunningham, and I think Mark Arrowsmith not heading out the pits just yet. We also have a couple of drivers in the pits. So a couple of drivers taking on fresh tyres, it seems. That's a bit of a gamble.
It is a big gamble given the length of this safety car period. I mean, I think they're planning that the safety car is going to take approximately another 3 to 4 minutes, and it's not going to be coming in anytime soon, which if so, we'd have approximately 5 minutes of racing plus the final lap. And that tyre gamble, they might be relying or hoping that there's going to be another instant at the start of this race that won't lead to a caution being thrown, but they'll be hoping that something happens to disrupt the field, because imagine, fresh tyres, you're going to take about half a lap to get them up to temperature. By the time you come out of Williams, you should have the temperature in the compound once again, and if that's the case, we could see some of our back drivers really coming up through the field, and very quickly. It's going to be very exciting when we go to the green once again.
Certainly could be. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get ready for racing. We have got around about 2 minutes to go before we go racing. The lights are off on the safety car, which means it's coming in at the end of this lap, but it's a fairly long lap for the Mazda. It's a fairly long lap being in the caution period. This is the season we're undergoing as time goes by. We're in round 8 right now here at Snetterton. Next week we're off to Zandvoort, and there's a week off between rounds 9 and 10. And the final 3 weeks of the championship will be hosted at Interlagos, Long Beach and the Nürburgring VLN layout for the 2-hour endurance to end the season. Plenty to watch, so do subscribe to the channels here on Facebook for Next Gen Racing TV. Do give us a like and a follow, and also Crest Autosport TV on Twitch and YouTube if you're watching there. Do give us a like and subscribe there. Very much helpful to the series and the channels in bringing you this content, bringing you this racing. But we are nearing go time in this first race of the night, and we're over the halfway point in this race. And as we've mentioned already, a lot of drivers taking on fresh tyres, a lot of drivers with not much time to get themselves into the positions that they themselves need for their championship hopes. To keep the points up, of course, we've got drivers who have gambled on the tyres, such as Jamie Dury, finds himself down in 13th place, 9th in category. Well, he's letting a few drivers by here. I wonder if that was due to going into the pits. But there's a lot of drivers who are really going to be trying to filter through the field. I think Maurice Henry might be another, although he was, but you could say, the start of the incident that happened that caused this caution. He seems to be found himself in a decent position nonetheless of 11th place here, Paul.
Indeed, I think Henry will be thinking that he's been given a second chance at this race, and if so, well, as we can see, they're making his way along. I think that's Craig Cockrell just behind him with a very mangled front end on the Pro machine as they make their way down, but everybody now weaving side to side. I think many a driver are thinking that this is their second opportunity to put to right what was a very difficult time coming out of Williams corner at the start of this race, and now as they make their way up towards Bombhole corner, it is the case we can see Liam McNeely all over the back of the safety car there. I think he's trying to get on the radio and say to him, can you please go a little bit faster, because these tyres are not getting warm enough as they make their way on through. Remind you of anybody in Formula 1 complained about the safety car speed by chance, Alex?
Oh, let's not mention it. We are about to go here at Snetterton for the first race of the night. We haven't got much racing left, but that means it's going to be very interesting indeed. You can already see David Mcguire getting alongside Liam McNeely, getting ready to put the hammer down and get going with the racing here. He'll lead his way. He's staying close to the safety car. He's not letting the safety car get away. He's going through the final corner now, so we have got not much time left before we get going. Look how close David Mcguire is getting to Liam McNeely there. And as soon as the safety car is off, Liam McNeely can go. And he goes now. Away we go. Down the main straight, the centre straight we go. Green flag is waving as we'll cross the line here. And away we go. And it's actually a very good start from fourth place driver William Chadwick as he takes to the outside of Mikey Doble as we head into turn one. Round we go. But Mikey Doble definitely has the better line of the two. There has been an instant further back. Glenn Humberston has been involved in an instant and he finds himself in the pits, but we'll carry on up here as into turn two we go. Liam McNeely leads the race, but William Chadwick's not able to get by Mikey Doble. Mikey Doble, that cunning old fox, is able to keep it ahead in third place for the time being. Through we go, and there's going to be a lot of drivers from the back of the grid, very quick on fresh tyres. One of them is Jamie Dory, no progress yet, and actually has fallen back a little bit from David Whitehouse in his early phase of the race. Not much going on so far, but a lot of drivers here trying to conserve themselves, trying to keep themselves in the race here, as we did see it can fall away quite quickly, Paul.
Indeed, and as they make the way on around right now, and we can see that our top two just breaking away, but meanwhile Chadwick has got himself ahead of Doble in the run up towards Agostini corner, and we're just taking a look back here, and as they came under braking, you can see it's the case with Chadwick, I think, missing his braking point, and Doble reacting there, and I remember Doble saying last time we spoke to him, Alex, about how the fact he's having to be cautious of other drivers around him in order to make sure he didn't see his race end up in tatters, and that was a good reaction there from Doble to avoid the way with Chadwick as they make the way down the Bentley straight and up towards Brundle corner. Now as they make the way and down most of the line astern here, but Mcguire's going to go to the inside to outside line as they come through the left into right. Under braking they go here. The Pro-Am driver's going to take a shot at taking the lead this race, but as they come through the right-hander, it is the case that McNeely keeps himself there, but both of them make it on through. And now as they come in towards Bombhole corner, it's there all side by side, a little bit of door contact, and I think it's the case. That tiny little knock has sent Mcguire wayward, but Mcguire there brings himself back under control, and as they do, they go through Corium corner, and that's an opportunity for Doble to try and get ahead of the Pro-Am driver, but Mcguire is not giving up here as they go into the final corner, and he holds on as they exhale Maurice, but this is going to give the Fordzilla drivers every opportunity they wanted to now start to break away, as we can see the top six staying in the pack, but meanwhile the rest of the field in pursuit, and John Higgins there in P7 has had a very good run of form as he makes his way across that timeline, the Hills Motorsport driver, and now heading up towards turn number one once again.
Absolutely not a bad start to this race for John Higgins indeed, and William Chadwick, that first lap after the caution period then, very good indeed. Gained 2 places past Mikey Doble and past David Mcguire as he pushes his teammate wide going into Wilson, takes an undercut and has now got the outside for the next corner, but I think he's purposely backed off here to let Nick McNeely back in front, but that is inviting pressure from Mikey Doble, who is still ahead of Mcguire. Mcguire trying to find a move on Mikey Doble going into turn 3 then, but couldn't make it. Doble will have his hammer down, trying to catch up with these two, but Doble is in a good place here. Doble is not going to be fighting McNeely and Chadwick in the championship, so he's still picking up good points here, Paul.
He is indeed, and Doble will be in the smart racer first and foremost. He reminds me in a way of a form of Alain Prost in terms of his logic to the race, and it definitely shows here as he carries on through. But just behind him, Nick Clevens in P5 at this point in time. It's the case that Clevens putting in a very strong performance, the Excite Racing driver, and of course him and well behind him, that's Lee Holmes as they make the way through. The 88 Tech driver putting that pressure on the number 35 car as they come through Williams corner once again, and as they make the way on through, I think Lee Holmes seizing that opportunity here to finish within the top 5 of his class as a minimum as they all make the way down the Bentley straight. Meanwhile, a bit further back, it is the case that I'm hearing that Paul Scott, whilst he's dropped down the order to degrees down towards P23, staying on in there, as we can see him right in the midst there, and he is trying to chase down Craig Cockrell just ahead of him, of course, in a different class here. I think Paul Scott trying to put some pressure on as they all make their way through, and a lot of the drivers who decided to change tyres, it hasn't quite worked out the way they wanted it to for them as they make the way on through, because what we've got right now, we've got one more lap after this with only a minute remaining, and it does not look as though as many overtakes are coming as perhaps we expected.
No, there isn't. It's rather surprising, but at the same time, it's not a very long race, and we haven't run under green flag conditions that much in this race so far. Oh, as we see Nick Clevens going wide, coming out of the final corner, that bunches up the field here. Lee Holmes will be losing out here to John Higgins as we head down the main straight. We're looking there at Maurice Henry as well, trying to find a way around these, trying to get his race back on track. He's up to 8th place so far, and he's a 3 wide going into turn 1. Maurice Henry takes to the inside, and evading then was Lee Holmes. He's spooked out of it, and Maurice Henry gains the position to 7th place, and he's challenging straight away for 6th place. Oh, it's a big dive there from John Higgins on the inside of Nick Clevens, but Maurice Henry gets the undercut, as does Nick Clevens. And this is the battle for 5th place. Very exciting indeed. Maurice Henry trying to find the inside going into turn 3. Can't make it, so he'll try and bleed it out of the corner. Nice and powerful as we head down the straight here towards Agostini. And they're guarding the inside. In fact, as Maurice Henry went for the move, and it's actually bogged him down for the exit at the corner, and he's heading into the corner defending from John Higgins. Meanwhile, up the front, we've also got Mikey Doble versus David Mcguire. Mcguire's got himself ahead, his nose ahead, and through the left-hander of Hamilton we go. Pushed off wide there is David Mcguire, and he breaks hard into the corner here, and somehow he keeps it on the track and keeps it ahead of Mikey Doble to take 3rd place. What brilliant battling from them two, very close indeed. But it is allowing Chadwick and McNeely to stretch away at the front here, and it might be allowing them to win this race here. Clevens holds 5th at the moment from Maurice Henry, but we've seen Maurice Henry is very, very partial to throwing in a dive bomb here and there, and we might see him throw one in on the chicane coming up here, heading into the chicane now. Nothing to report from McNeely, Chadwick, Mcguire and Doble. But Nick Clevens, and there is contact. There is contact between the two. Clevens can try and keep it going, but Maurice Henry avoids to go around, as does Higgins and Holmes, as Clevens has lost down to 8th place. So we'll get a look at that instant after the race. But we will have to greet our victor, taking a little bit of the grass just to take a little bit more out of his lap times. But the winner of this race, he's won 6 from 7 races so far in his appearances this season. What a triumphant driver. What a triumphant win there for Liam McNeely, taking another win in this series. William Chadwick, his teammate on his debut, takes 2nd position. David Mcguire on his return, 1st in category and onto the overall podium, with Mikey Doble taking a 3rd in category. 2nd in the Pro-Am category comes Matthew Addy, and no surprises, he does it quite often. The Duck Song livery, David Whitehouse takes the win in the AM category, and a brilliant 11 places gained as well. I believe he was the most of the field as well, so a job well done for David Whitehouse. But Paul, not the most exciting race we've had, but there was a little bit here and there and everywhere.
Indeed, it was the case that we didn't quite see as many overtakes as perhaps we expected, particularly with a number of drivers swapping to fresher tyres towards what was the end of the pit, not of the pit window, of the safety car window. I think it's the case that it's just set the tone for the upcoming 2 races, really. I think after that incident coming out of Williams' corner, which affected the best part of 10 plus drivers in a 28 car pack, so you can imagine that's all, well, that is effectively a third of our drivers. I think many may have been cautious about just wanting to get to the end of race number 1, and we really saw things start to open up, particularly among our top 6 to top 8 on that final lap, with the battle for what was P5. Maurice Henry in the end coming home in P5 there, and Mikey Doble losing out to David Mcguire, but Mcguire really getting adventurous with that move around the outside at Hamilton, and whether it was completely on track or not, you have to say that both drivers giving one another racing room all the same. And I think now, as we take a look back here, and this is just to give you an idea, and you can see under braking here how Mikey Doble got caught in behind what was Chadwick, and then Mcguire found his way on the outside at Agostini, and as I come into Hamilton here, I mean, Mcguire decided he wasn't backing out of this, and Doble, to be fair, kept him onto that outside line. The two of them make it on through, and Mcguire there with the off. He returns to circuit, and he would argue, of course, he wasn't given the racing room. Doble, of course, would argue that he wouldn't go around the outside there, but the two of them keeping it alive. But of course, Chadwick able to make the breakaway as a result, as they then made their way in towards Williams' corner and down the Bentley straight. But I think Doble at this point sort of thought to himself, okay, you know what, I'm going to back it off, because if we keep this up, we're taking one other out. Meanwhile, Nick Clevens versus Maurice Henry here. Now, this was the run down the Bentley straight and down towards what was the combination of Brundle and turn number 10, as they roared their way on down here. Watch Maurice Henry, who's going to come in quite adventurously here, to be fair, wanting to gain that place, and under trail braking he tries to sneak it to the inside, and he gets it just wrong there, but to be fair, he immediately brought the car down, but he couldn't stop forever because of the drivers behind. But you could see what he was trying to do. He was trying to trail his way to the inside and just got it wrong by literally a hair's width. If he just moved the car slightly more to the right, he would have had that, and it would have been perhaps one of the overtakes of the season.
Yeah, you could see what Maurice Henry was clearly trying to do, but I think he thought that Clevens was going to brake a little bit later, and he had a little bit more room on his left. But you'll take 5th place for the time being, pending protests and reports coming after the race, of course. But that's been the replays we've watched of this, and let's take another quick look at what happened earlier on in this race, just to recap what actually happened. I have to go and find it now. It was what started off all this drama. It's what dropped a lot of drivers well down the order, and this is it. This was Adam Delmont getting... it wasn't Adam Delmont, it was Maurice Henry getting sideways, and then it just collect everybody after that. You could just see the mess that it creates. It's one of the biggest crashes we've had of the season. It kind of reminds me of Spa in '98 in the Formula 1. Just one of those instances where everyone couldn't avoid it.
Oh, very true. And to be fair, it just took 2 cars coming together, or a third car, if you will, as well, and then the dominoes just started to tumble. And it could have been no worse a corner than for it to happen at Williams' corner, because of the fact it's such a blind corner as you're coming on out from the perspective of the driver. And to be fair, our top drivers, all the way up at the very front, such as Liam McNeely, well, they're just having a whale of time, thinking to themselves, okay, we're running away from the field. And, well, then after that, of course, the safety car came along and brought them all back together again. But to be fair, you can't take anything away from McNeely. He had to battle with his own teammate as well, who really took the fight to him in the form of Chadwick, but in the end it was the Fordzilla driver who pulled it off. And there are race results, which, Alex, over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, it is the aforementioned Liam McNeely taking the win in this race with his teammate William Chadwick in 2nd position. David Mcguire taking the win in the Pro-Am category from Mikey Doble in 4th position, and 3rd in the Pro category. John Higgins 5th from Lee Holmes, Nick Clevens in 7th. Matthew Addy will take 8th place, a very good 2nd place in category for him. Ben Bennyworth in 9th, and rounding off the top 10 overall, Jamie Dory did climb a few positions to the top 10. 11th place to Rob Mcgregor, 3rd place in category, with David Whitehouse in 12th position and 1st in category, and the most places gained of 11 places. And he'll also get pole position for the next race, with it being a reverse 12. Big congratulations, a big race for David Whitehouse indeed. And then in 13th position was Sam Smith, with Matt Emmons in 14th position. Adam Delmont, who was caught up in that instant, heavier than most, 15th for him, with Nigel Stock in 16th, Mark Oliver in 17th, Ollie Peters in 18th, with Lee Horne, our Pro-Am Championship leader, in 19th. Paul Scott is 20th, with George Watson in 21st, Craig Cockrell in 22nd, John Burnham 23rd, Maurice Henry 24th in the end. So something happened to him and has led to a penalty which has dropped him all the way to 24th. So effectively, Nick Clevens climbs the position. After that incident, Maurice Henry dropped to 24th and gets a lot less points. So we'll try and establish why that happened, and we'll get back to you once we come back after the break. But 25th was David Kernan, Glenn Humberston 26th, Callum Jenkins 27th, 2 laps down, Mark Arrowsmith in 28th, and Deegan Fairclough didn't even start the race, 29th for him. That has been race 1 of the night, the NXTGEN Racing MX5 Cup, here at Snetterton today for round 8 of the championship. I've been Alex Everett and Paul Walsh alongside me. We'll be back very soon in the next 5 minutes for race 2 of the night. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone, to Snetterton for round 8 of the NXTGEN Racing MX5 Cup here on Monday nights. I'm Alex Everett, alongside me Paul Walsh, and this is going to be race 2 of the night. And the schedule for the season is as follows. We started off with Silverstone all them weeks ago. December the 6th, just over 2 months ago. Knock Hill was round 2 of the championship. Red Bull Ring was round 3. Gilles Villeneuve Circuit was round 4, with Daytona being hosted at round 5 being hosted at Daytona. Bathurst hosting round 6, and last week was Monza. Next week we're off to Zandvoort, and Interlagos is round 10 of the championship, and the final 2 rounds of the championship, Long Beach and the Nürburgring VLN circuit. But we're still very much in the middle of the season here, so a lot of drivers trying to re-establish their championships. A lot of drivers have established their championship positions and trying to hold them or better them. So it's getting real interesting. And so far tonight we have had a race mostly consisted of caution periods, Paul, but we will see probably a little more action as the races go by, as a lot of drivers will feel that their race one probably didn't go as well as they'd hoped.
Indeed, Alex. And I think race number 2 in particular would have been another 15-minute race, of course, with that partial reverse grid, where our top 12 finishers in race number 1 will now be reversed for the purposes of race number 2. I think it's going to be the case that everyone will now approach this one with a little bit more caution in mind, in terms of they'll still go for the moves, they'll go for the adventurous moves into some corners, but perhaps we may not see as much carnage on lap number 1, particularly Williams corner. It caught a lot of drivers out in what was race number 1 on lap 1, and I doubt we'll see that again, but we'll just have to wait and find out. And I think everyone also now has properly got their eye in. We did have a practice session and we also had a qualifying session, but now everyone's got a feel for what exactly happens when we do go racing, which is always the way, of course. That's why we have free races. It gives free opportunities to our drivers to score good points. As we see Rob Mcgregor here making his way down the Bentley Straight and into a bundle. It is the case right, another Scotsman who was not really there in race number 1 in terms of he was running quite well, but I think he felt as though there's a bit more on the table. He's going to have more of an opportunity. And the same with Ollie Peters, who gambled with that pit stop and it didn't work out under the safety car. What can he do in race number 2?
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Harris-Smith also lost out with 2 laps down in that previous race. He'll definitely be hoping for further up the field in this race, particularly as the AM category is quite a short amount of drivers, so you'll definitely be hoping for a decent result here. But we're about to get underway here, and the grid for this next race very quickly read to you by Paul Walsh.
So, going into race number 2, it's David Whitehouse, our AM driver, on pole, with Rob Mcgregor alongside him on the front row, our Pro-Am pole. Jamie Dory, our Pro pole in P3, alongside him Ben Bennyworth. Matthew Addy and Nick Clevens on row number 3, with Lee Holmes and John Higgins behind on row 4. Mikey Doble and David Mcguire row 5, William Chadwick and Liam McNeely, our top 2 in race number 1, starting on row number 6. Sam Smith and Matt Emmons on row 7, with Adam Delmont and Nigel Stock behind on row number 8. And there's Mark Oliver and Ollie Peters on row number 9, with Lee Horne and Paul Scott on row 10. George Watson and Craig Bockrell row 11. John Burnham and Reece Henry on row 12, David Cunningham and Glenn Humberstone row 13, Callum Jenkins and Mark Harris-Smith on row 14, and that, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, completes our grid order, with Deacon Fairclough not being able to take to the circuit. They've still got trouble with the car, and this is, of course, race number 2 of round number 8 at Snetterton in NXTGEN Racing MX5 Cup, as we are now counting down the lights. We have 5 red lights, and they will go live very shortly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... And it's lights down, away we go for race number 2. Here as David Whitehouse gets the start he needs in order to be able to hold on to the inside and the run down towards 1 as they make their way into Royal to Richards corner here. And you can see Mcgregor immediately going on the offensive. He wants to come through, as there's the mad dash into the double right apex. And as they come on through, Mcgregor's going to go all the way round. But will he be able to nail it? As we see Lee Holmes here also trying to do the same versus what is Higgins. And as they all make the way up, we've got a bit of a dash down further down the order. And as they come on into the braking zone, Maurice Henry with a nut. Well, that's not Maurice Henry, my apologies. That's David Mcguire. I thought the glint off the car was Maurice Henry. As we see Nick Clevens there has been knocked wide. I think it's got an issue, and there has been a major incident already, and I think we're going to be seeing a safety car very shortly, because that is a huge moment coming out of turn number 2. My goodness, Alex.
Yeah, it could well be a safety car. We'll let you know if it is, but so far the racing is raging on, and we have got Ben Bennyworth at the top here, who's put his way into that top spot. 3 places gained to get there. John Higgins,
we have got a safety car
Safety car has left the pits, and is leaving the pits, and we'll head out on track and we'll wait for the drivers to catch up. Drivers will be able to race until they get to the start-finish line, but it'll be Ben Bennyworth, as it stands, leading the race as it heads to the safety car, which will be a much shorter safety car period. But once we catch up, we will get a chance to see what happened in that instant. The racing rages on here. We got David Mcguire versus John Higgins here. They are able to keep racing until that start-finish straight. And look how far around the track we are. We've still got a fair few corners before we get there. So heading into the chicane here, we've got Mcguire versus John Higgins. Through the chicane we go. Oh, and onto two wheels goes Mcguire. He kept that going very, very well indeed. I'm just getting a glimpse there. William Chadwick doing very well here. Oh, and there's a nudge on the rear of Sam Smith as he goes round. During the safety car period here, sent off the track, and he had to get himself back onto the track as quick as possible, ready for when they catch up with that safety car. Ben Bennyworth goes round that final corner now, and he'll catch up with that safety car who is waiting just off of turn one. It's a very colourful safety car. It kind of looks like one of those lollipop things. What are they called? What are they called?
Oh, the Chubba Chub.
Yeah, that's it. It kind of looks like one of them. But enough about that. More about the racing. Ben Bennyworth has crossed the line, and he'll catch up with the safety car here. Headed up by, well, his name's not safety car. It is Gaz Williams, and he is quite the star in our GT3 league here on Next Gen Racing. And in the Porsche GT4, he'll lead the drivers round the track for what is a safety car period now. So quite a lot happened in that, and there's a few drivers in the pits. Jamie Dury, Ollie Peters, Matthew Addy, Dave Whitehouse, Adam Delmont, Mark Oliver and Lee Holmes are all in the pits. And I think Jamie Dury and Ollie Peters are rejoining on fresh tyres here, Paul.
Yeah, I've seen it's the case. They were up on the jacks as I was looking down at the commentary box window, and it does seem as though they're giving it all once again. And I think they'll be counting on the safety car is a lot shorter this time, and therefore they can have more racing action over the time remaining. Now, how long will it take for the safety car to run? Well, it could be in as early as the end of this lap, although I suspect he'll probably go one more lap after this to give everybody the opportunity to close up. But even with that, you could say that we're going to have approximately somewhere in the region of about 8 minutes of racing, perhaps 7 if one lucky. That might just give us enough time here as they come on through. But really, right now, Ben Bennyworth, I think he'll be looking back and thinking, well, how on earth did it all kick off like this? And he'll be very pleased that D&D Wildcard Racing with Seesaw Digital Racing driver as we take a look back at what happened at the start of this race. And we're looking at Mark Oliver in particular, who got it wrong there. So he was coming out of Rich's corner, I believe. He just simply lost the car, and then everybody coming up into Wilson, and that's where it started. Matthew Addy in contact. I think that was Lee Holmes there in the 88 Tech machine. As we take another look back here, Matthew Addy, you'll see it's just ahead, and well, there's already some contact there, as there's contact between Addy and the Excite machine, and then the turn from Lee Holmes. And I think there might have been a little bit of an upset there with what was David Mcguire also coming in quite heavy under braking. But a very odd instant the way that all kicked off. It's almost as if we had about 3 or 4 little instants all separate, and they just seemed to kick it off.
Yeah, it just seems to be that way. Oh, we're having a few issues with that. There we go. We're able to get going again. So this is Dave Whitehouse. He was in the lead, and he also spun. So it's a bit of a nudge on the rear there, and the car heading round the rear end, turning around as he was off the track. The little nudge didn't quite help him getting off the track there. I think that was Rob Mcgregor who gave him the nudge. But yeah, a lot of instance to record there, as drivers are still behind the safety car here. But yeah, quite an interesting start of the race indeed. Very, very early on as far as 2 corners. But let's see what happens to the safety car here. Now, there's no lights to indicate whether it's coming in or out the pits, and it's going to go around for another lap. So, track not yet clear. The marshals are not quite happy with the state of the track, so we will stay behind the safety car for another lap here. This will probably take us up to 7.5 minutes before we get the racing underway, which again is half the race. It is going to be crucial here at Snetterton this evening with these safety cars potentially coming out in the 3rd race, depending on how the instants go. But yeah, it means less time again for drivers to get up into the higher positions, Paul.
Oh, indeed. And I think with that in mind, I think it's going to change a lot of drivers' perspectives going into what is the second half of this race when we do get back under race trim. I think many of them will go for that do or die approach, but the one driver, of course, who will not want to take that approach because he'll feel that every point is critical for his championship campaign is the pro driver Mikey Doble, who's currently P17, P7 in class. He's quite a way down the order there, and he will want to get past the likes of Sam Smith just in front of him, Nick Clevens, who's the best part of 6 places up the road. And this is a horrible place for Mikey Doble and anybody who's leading their championship. The same with Lee Horne as well, who's in P5 at the moment. These drivers, of course, they ideally in their mind they would want to be right at the front and finish under safety car conditions, because for them it means they've got guaranteed points. And Lee Horne, well, he's got to in particular, he's going to have Matt Emmons right behind him, and we do know the next gen racing driver Matt Emmons, whilst he's only recently joined this series, a very fast driver, and he could potentially provide an upset to Lee Horne, who'd be on course for another good points finish if it was to finish as it is. But it's going to be very, very difficult for a number of drivers here, and there'll be plenty out there, I'm sure, who will want to just capitalise on the opportunity to go hunting. Liam McNeely, who's down in P9 for example, P4 in class, and the pro driver, well, if he's going to pull a win out of the bag in race number 2 here, my goodness, that would be absolutely impressive to add another win to his tally. But can he do it from back there? We'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely, and just referring back to Lee Horne, 14 places gained. He managed to find his way through the drama on lap 1 then and get himself into 5th place. And considering race 1 didn't go well for him, he finished well down the order, which is more points lost for him. He'll consider it. But this race certainly is putting a cap on that, and he can get some good points out of this race. He's got a teammate behind him, and he's got a lot of fast drivers ahead of him, so he can focus on forward for the remainder of this race. We now are halfway through this race, and I think we will be about to get underway for this next race. For the remainder of this race, the middle race of the night.
Yep. The safety car is coming in at the end of this lap.
There we go. So the safety car, driven by Gaz Williams, GT3 Star, is going to take this car into the pits. And Ben Bennyworth basically can control the field because there's not as many strict iRacing guidelines. As we head out of the final corner, he decides not to go yet. He's going to hold it off. Now the power is down and we're going to get underway again here at Snetterton. 8 minutes expired and not much of the race. 7 minutes left of this race. We get underway again, heading up towards turn 1. A move here from William Chadwick on the outside of John Higgins. Cannot quite make it work. We'll try an undercut coming out of turn 1. But Lee Horne is getting a very good run on Chadwick as we head up towards Wilson Hairpin. Into the corner we go. We got David Mcguire on the outside of Ben Bennyworth. And also Lee Horne did not find the inside of Matt Emmons, but Matt Emmons did run wide and has allowed Maurice Henry through. And we got Mcguire versus Ben Bennyworth still. Mcguire moves into the lead, going through turn 3 there. And still Pro-Am category #1 driver at the moment. But first overall, there's nothing stopping Mcguire on this track that clearly suits him, Paul.
Indeed, and Mcguire has literally just been salivating at the prospect of taking the fight to Bennyworth, and Bennyworth now I think feeling a little bit unsettled as Higgins goes to the move and gets it done through Agostini and up into Hamilton here. So I think now Higgins will be absolutely wanting to push on, because if he can carry this momentum, he's going to be taking the win in the Pro Class in race number 2. But look who's behind there, William Chadwick, who looks at the cutback coming out of Williams' corner, sorry, out of Oggie's corner I should say, and heading up towards Williams. And as they come into turn number 8, now he's right alongside here, the two of them literally giving one another enough breathing room. There's a little bit of contact there from the side from William Chadwick versus Bennyworth, and now you can see Lee Horne on the right side of your picture as they go down the Bentley straight. He's trying to get on through as he tries to accelerate past, and Bennyworth falling backwards here as they make their way through. A bit at the rear of the picture, we've got an 88 Tech car going very wide there out of what was Williams, as meanwhile they all come down in towards the combination of Brundle and turn 10 as they make the way on in. It is Mcguire who continues to lead, but further back we can see McNeely getting his way past Bennyworth and up into P6 as they make the way through Bomhole Corner. It's the case, but McNeely they're very brave, and Bennyworth, to be fair, wanted to stay with him side by side. Now as they come up into Cunningham Corner, it is the case, I think Bennyworth at this point now needs to just settle down a little bit and realise, okay, it's not going to plan, just try and pick up the points and hold on to that top 10 as they make the way through. But to be fair, his advantage now is that he's got a lot of Pro-Am drivers behind him, including Matt Emmons and Watson, who will be looking to try and make their way through, but they've got their own little battle to deal with. They don't want to really battle with the pro driver if they could afford it. 5 minutes remain as they come across the timeline this time around, and I think it is the case that now behind we do have Nick Clevens Clemens trying to find his way past Watson into turn 1. That is Clevens on what is the inside there. Watson on the outside. The Simtech Racing Gold driver coming on through. Can he get it done here versus Watson, who's giving him the space to battle? And as they come down into what is Wilson corner, you can see it's the case. He's not quite able to get it done as they battle through, but he just about gets it done in the end as they emerge. And meanwhile, we look back up here to William Chadwick, and there's Maurice Henry, who our greatest gain around the circuit, gaining 20 places since the start of this race after being put all the way down the order at the end of race number 1. And well, I think the privateer here doing everything he needs to right now to really go for that overall podium.
There's some drivers with some big moves in this race. Maurice Henry is one of them. Lee Horne, 14 places gained. He lost that position just then to Maurice Henry, but he won't mind so much. Callum Jenkins up 16 places to 11th at the moment. A big race for him. Some big movers in this race. But in the AM category, it's getting fairly close for them as Mark Arrowsmith leads the category, but not by much, ahead of David Whitehouse, who did start pole position overall in this race, and he's trying to get his race back on track, trying to reel in Mark Arrowsmith up ahead, and Ollie Peters is between the two of them. But also Paul Scott is here in the running, but he is getting hounded here by David Cunningham and Matthew Addy. He's got them right behind him, but Cunningham will have the inside going around Williams here and onto the back straight. Brilliant undercut there from David Cunningham, who's going to try and get himself ahead. Meanwhile, towards the front, just inside the top 10, Clemens versus Watson, and they come side to side going into Brundle. How often do we see that going into that corner as George Watson is trying to get his race back on track here? His teammate passes him of Callum Jenkins, and through goes everyone. Oh, Mikey Doble there on the outside, getting very narrow between him and Watson, going around bomb hole then, but coming around Cobham now. Mikey Doble has the outside and will have the inside from the next corner. Can he keep the inside? Yes, he can. Later on the brakes, through he goes and back up into 12th place for Mikey Doble. Brilliant moves from our championship leader.
They're making their way down the straight onto another lap. Now they will have one more lap after this based on the time remaining, and the battles are opening up as we see here Matt Emmons giving the hunt after what is Nick Clevens. But meanwhile up the front we can see William Chadwick up the inside here. Higgins into Wilson. He's got very deep on the brakes there and just about brings it to a standstill. But my goodness, Chadwick having to go very deep, and to be fair, Higgins taking him all the way to line under braking as they make their way into Palmer corner, and behind them Maurice Henry and also Liam McNeely both there in that hunt. As meanwhile a bit further back, Rob Mcgregor get a bit of a tap on the rear end then from Watson as they make the way on out, and as they come up in towards Palmer themselves, you can see just in front Sam Smith as Mcgregor goes to the move there versus the Simtech Racing driver as they come through the left-hander. The two of them still side by side. They come roaring out towards Agostini, and surely Mcgregor's going to have this on the inside. Smith's going to have to be wary of the fact if he's going to be able to hold on to this, he's got to go for a cutback. Then the Mcgregor goes very deep on the brakes, in fact, and gives the place to George Watson, who comes on through, and Mcgregor goes wide then. I think Mcgregor just being caught shy under the braking, going a bit too deep, and what I'm hearing that Chadwick's had a little bit of an off and is actually falling down the order from what was P2. As further up the order, I think we've had quite an incident or something has occurred, because we've seen that Maurice Henry has gained a lot of place in McNeely as well. But meanwhile here, Mark Arrowsmith, P21 in the lead of the AM class right now, but right behind him David Whitehouse. But it is, we're just looking back at what happened. So Chadwick, they're getting a tap on the rear end from Higgins, and Maurice Henry coming on through just based on the contacts. They made their way into Williams corner, and will both drivers there being very severely impacted. As we look back to live pictures now, and we can see the case, it's really starting to turn into a little bit of an all-out battle for P2, and Maurice Henry at the head of this pack. David Mcguire just being given the breathing room, the Pro-Am driver, to run away as Maurice Henry makes his way around through Corin corner in P2. He's got McNeely, Chadwick and Higgins all salivating at that prospect of taking P2 off him and getting the Pro win come the end of it as they go around and on to the final lap.
Yeah, just to point out with John Higgins, I think he slowed up to let by William Chadwick to let him have the position back, as if to say, I messed up, you can have that position back. So if that was the case, it's very sportsmanlike from John Higgins to let him have the position back. But the final lap has commenced here at Snetterton for race 2 of the night. David Mcguire romping this at the moment, but the battle for the pro category here is between Maurice Henry and Liam McNeely for the time being, and these two faced off against each other at Monza last time out. And they're facing off again here at Snetterton. But Liam McNeely, the difference this time, he's got a teammate to back him up. He's got William Chadwick waiting here in the wings to pounce. on when the mistake happens from Maurice Henry, if the mistake happens. He goes to defensive as we head up towards Agostini. He got a very good run out of 3, and into turn 4 we go. He holds second place for the moment, not quite catching up with David Mcguire. They are catching up a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to win the race potentially, unless David Mcguire messes up big time. But Lee Horne here is waiting just behind this pack here, sitting happy in second place, and David Mcguire not in championship contention. He'll be happy with this. He'll let them guys battle ahead, and he'll take good points here in his category. Now let's see what happens for this pro category for the end of the race here. A good run is what's needed from Liam McNeely here, and as we ride on board with him now, we'll see how much he gains down the main straight. Over to you, Paul.
Well, as he's running in the toe here, it's going to be all or nothing, because really it's the last major overtaking spot where he's going to be doing on the brakes. He does look to the inside, coming up into Brundle. He's going to commit for it, but he'll be on the outside into Nelson, and all Henry's got to do is put the car on the apex as he drifts it across the apex curve. They're blocking McNeely very well, and you can see the frustration from McNeely. He's trying to find a way to get on through on the inside into Bombhole, but it's not going to happen. And as they sweep into Cunningham, he's going to go all in here, McNeely. It's going to be very brave stuff, but he has to back out in the end, otherwise he'd understeer straight into Henry, and will the stewards be giving him a finger wag as they make the way for the final corner. But Henry's gone very deep. He defends as they come through the final corner, but as they make the way on through, squabbling for the win in the pro class, it is going to be David Mcguire, the Pro-Am driver, who is going to be your race winner in race number 2 here at Snetterton. And then we've got 3 wide to the finish line here, and I think, unless I'm mistaken, was that McNeely who took the win, or was it Henry? That was so close to call as they come on across.
3,000th of a second apparently between Maurice Henry and Liam McNeely as they cross the line there, and only 36,000th of a second between McNeely and Chadwick. What a great finish to that race from them 3 drivers, and there's a little bit of contact between, I think it was Chadwick and Higgins just before the line there, but what a finish from those drivers.
Oh, indeed, and let's not forget as well our winner in the AM class there. And I think it's his first win in a very long time, if not his first win in the series. Mark Arrowsmith, the Maverick driver there, picking up a win here at Snetterton in race number 2.
I'll check that. No, it's not. Sorry to burst your bubble there. He got a win last time out of Monza, but a big win for him. He's against tough competition today in David Whitehouse and Paul Scott, but a win for Mark Arrowsmith in the AM category nonetheless, second of the season. Big congratulations to him.
Oh, indeed, a fantastic drive from Arrowsmith in the end with the pressure from David Whitehouse, and I think he'll chalk that one up and think to himself, another job well done indeed. Well, he was a very fast driver since he joined the series, and he's continued to demonstrate that. But that battle at the end between our pro drivers, well, what a fantastic way to end. And as they were coming out of the final corner here, Alex, I mean, well, Maurice Henry did everything he can to put the car left, to put it right. In the end, he found himself on the very right-hand side, and well, then it all kicked off in terms of just that drag race to the line.
Absolutely, and we're trying to get a decent shot of them coming across the line. Let's see if we can get a decent angle of it. Now let's run this from here. So you can see in the middle there we have got William Chadwick finding his way to the middle. He had to sort of block off John Higgins as he got there. So look how close it is between the right car of Maurice Henry and the left car of Liam McNeely as they get to the line. That's how close it is. In fact, it is the middle car that is Liam McNeely. That is super, super close. Let's see if we can get an I don't like doing it, but rear chase. That's how close it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is super close, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, I mean, those two there, they must both be thinking right now that they won it, but in the end it will be going to Maurice Henry subject to any stewards investigations, although I think these two won't be in any stewards inquiries. But in the end, well, I think both of them will be absolutely pumped full of adrenaline and thinking ahead to what is race number 3 and what could be. But I can see the race results are up on the screen, Alex. Would you like me to do the honours?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, then after race number 2, it was David Mcguire in the end who took the win by just under 2 seconds ahead of Maurice Henry in P2. Liam McNeely in the end rounded off our overall podium, with Mcguire being our Pro-Am category winner and Maurice Henry being our Pro winner by only the smallest of margins in the end. Fantastic between those guys. William Chadwick coming home P4 ahead of John Higgins P5. Brilliant battling between those two plus the 2 drivers ahead of them in the end. And it was Lee Horne P6, the Pro-Am driver, with another happy podium finished in the Pro-Am class. And I think that's good points on the board for him podium as Ben Bennyworth P7 and Nick Clevens P8, Mikey Doble P9 and Callum Jenkins completes our Pro Am podium for race number 2. Adam Delmont just outside the top 10 in P11 ahead of Sam Smith, John Burnham in P13, Jamie Dory P14 and Matt Evans P15, Lee Holmes P16 and then Nigel Stock P17 and then P18 Mark Arrowsmith, our AM category winner for race number 2 ahead of Ollie Peters and Matthew Addy completes our top 20. Glenn Humberston P21 ahead of Craig Cockrell, both drivers having a very difficult race. The 88 Tech driver in particular we saw in the rear of the picture at one point getting it a little bit wrong and he'll be looking to bounce back in race number 3. David Whitehouse having a difficult moment in the race which saw him separated from Mark Arrowsmith, but yeah, I think he'll take a lot of motivation. He's got the pace in the race. Mark Oliver P24, Paul Scott P25 rounding off our AM podium, and then Rob Mcgregor in the end being the last of our drivers to finish on the lead lap, with George Watson and David Cunningham having to return to the pits with damage to the car which prevented them from finishing the race.
And there we go. That's been the results of this race here at Snetterton. Second race done with, first race done with earlier on. We got the third race coming up next. A 25-minute feature race, a much longer race. What will happen in that race? We'll find out very shortly. I've been Alex Everett and Paul Walsh alongside me. We'll go for a quick break now, and race 3 coming up very shortly. Don't go away. Welcome back everyone to Snetterton for the Next Gen Racing MX5 Cup. We've got a third race coming up very shortly, sun setting here in East England. And the third race of the night will be 25 minutes in length, so a much longer race, which means we're going to get to see more of the action we've seen so far tonight. Yeah, apologies for that, reading a message off air then. So, myself and Paul Walsh giving you the commentary tonight. But Paul, it's been a strange night. Two very long safety car periods that have taken up near half of each race, but each race has been very exciting in its own right still.
Yeah, it has in a way, and what the safety car has done, particularly in race number 2, it's just put the race on a very fine balance whereby drivers have had to really go to war with one another in order to get those places, with the fact that normally every driver will be coming into those first 2 races thinking, oh, I've got 15 minutes, I can play around with it a little bit, there's time available to me, but then they suddenly have this safety car which takes away, well, in race number 1 it took away over half the race, and in race number 2 it meant they only really had just under half the race to go, and it's led to some very exciting moments, and particularly with the ending of race number 2. I mean, who couldn't have asked for an even closer ending than that, with the fact we had 3 drivers in the end separated by only 40 thousandths of a second. Well, in case the 2 drivers battling for the Pro League being separated by 5 thousandths. That's the kind of racing we love to see, as I get my words mingled over once again. But it is the case, well, if race number 3 is going to be anything to follow, it's going to be very good over the course of the 25 minutes.
Oh, certainly is. And you mentioned round 3. Well, no, it's not. It's round 8, but it is race 3 of the night. But we started off all them weeks ago at Silverstone, then Knockhill, then Red Bull Ring, then Montreal, Daytona, and Bathurst, and last week was Monza. This week here at Snetterton for round 8 of the championship, and next week, 1 week from today, tune in to Crest Autosport TV and Next Gen Racing TV, and you can catch round 9 of the championship, which will be at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. What a track that'll be for these cars. A fairly long circuit for these cars. It was short for the Formula 1, but it's going to be a fairly long track like this one for these Mazda MX-5s. A very hilly track and a very narrow track at times, which means the racing's going to be great from these drivers. That was our schedule as the season goes by, ending with Interlagos, Long Beach and Nürburgring, of course. But we're about to get underway for the final race of the night. 25 minutes awaits us and a full reverse grid, which we'll go through very shortly. But Paul, very quickly, who's your money on?
I think, to be honest, my money is going to be on what is Liam McNeely. I think he's going to be coming through very rapidly over the course of the 25 minutes. And here is our grid, which as all our drivers start to line up, it will be Rob Mcgregor who starts on pole, having this finished at the back in race number 2. Paul Scott alongside him. It'll be Mark Oliver and David Whitehouse on row number 2, with Craig Cockrell and Glenn Humberstone on row 3. Matthew Addy and Ollie Peters on row 4, with Mark Arrowsmith and Nigel Stock on row 5. Lee Holmes and Matt Evans on row 6. Jamie Dory and John Burnham on row 7, with Sam Smith and Adam Delmont on row number 8. Callum Jenkins and Mikey Doble just behind there. Watch out for Mikey Doble. He'll be looking to have a conservative race. Nick Clevens and Ben Pennyworth on the 10th row, with Lee Horne and John Higgins on row 11. William Chadwick and Liam McNeely. The 2 sparks will fly between them, I'm sure, on row number 12. Maurice Henry and David Mcguire. And then we've got David Cunningham on the final row there. 27 drivers taken to the grid for this final race in what is race number 3 of round number 8 at Snetterton in the Next Gen Racing with Crest Autosport MX5 Cup. And now we just wait for the lights before we go races. The gridding procedure is complete. Over to you, Alex.
Here we go for the final race tonight. 25 minutes about to get underway very shortly. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and away we go. And it looks like a pretty good start from Rob Mcgregor. He blasts away from Paul Scott in second place, who's already fallen victim to Mark Oliver on his inside, heading up towards turn 1. Into turn 1 we go, and it's Rob Mcgregor who takes a nice shallow line into the corner, holding off that lead at the moment. And I thought there was an instant further back, but it seems Liam McNeely is getting on fairly alright at the back there, towards the front. Let's see if everyone gets through this hairpin fairly safe and sound. Ollie Peters with a big lunge at the inside of Glenn Humberstone there. Oh, and there's been an incident. John Higgins has had an incident further back in the field. But it's and there's another instant just there. That was Nick Clevens, I believe, who spun around coming out of the hairpin. But most drivers are getting away fairly safe and sound. Oh, and there is actually, just as I said that, there is a spin coming out of turn 4. And I think that is Jamie Dory spun off coming out of turn 3 there. Ben Pennyworth is heading back out on track there, fairly slow, but quite a lot going on so far in the early part of this race, but still at the front. 2 Pro-Am drivers at the front. Rob Mcgregor, as he spins, coming out of Hamilton there, just completely turned it sideways, and he loses the lead here, Paul.
Indeed, and Rob Mcgregor, who was going so well, and now just losing out of Hamilton, and all that good start has been for nothing as he rejoins here, and he tries to get himself up to speed. One thing we didn't call out as well, Alex, was the fact that Mikey Doble was involved in that off at turn number 3 with Jamie Doble. But goodness me, and even more drivers getting it wrong coming out of Williams. A lot of drivers just struggling here in this late evening. Perhaps it's the track temperature coming down, and not many people feeling comfortable with the fact those temperatures are not quite there.
Well, it's been a very strange start to this race indeed. So now our new leader is Matthew Addy. Considered a part-timer in this series, he finds himself leading this race. In second place is Lee Holmes. Ollie Peters in second place, 5 places gained as he just shoves himself into third place there past Glenn Humberston. Brilliant moves from Ollie Peters so far. Matthew Addy holding off from Lee Holmes at the moment. Lee Holmes, I don't know if he's won a race yet this season. I might be wrong about that, but he's in a good opportunity here to pick up some big points as Mikey Doble way down the order in 23rd. And other championship rivals, well, Deegan Fairclough is out, not even in this race. So, big opportunity here for Lee Holmes as he finds his way on the outside of Matthew Addy heading towards turn 1. At the end of lap 1, into Riches will go. Lee Holmes will take to the outside. Matthew Addy brakes a lot earlier. Holmes hangs on to the track and stays in first place at the moment. Brilliant move there from Lee Holmes as Ollie Peters now gains on Matthew Addy just ahead of him. Ollie Peters is looking for his his second Pro category win this season. He won at Daytona in race 3 if you remember rightly, and he's going to be looking for a win here at Snetterton. He'll be hammered down trying to go for it here. Let's see what else is going on in the field. We've got David Whitehouse leading in the AM category at the moment, but not by much, ahead of Paul Scott, his championship rival.
As they all make their way down towards Agostini. One thing I've just noticed, by the way, we just had confirmed, is this race is only going to be 15 minutes in length due to a slight mix-up with regards to the course scheduling. So our third race is only 15 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. That's not a glitch that you're seeing on your screens. So our drivers will be going all in even more here, and hopefully we're going to see 15 minutes without a safety car, which so far no safety car has been called. But with the start, what it has really done, plus also the reverse grid, and the majority of our drivers involved in instance being drivers who are right up there in the championship, this is offering a huge opportunity for a variety of new leaders and new winners in their classes become the end of the night. The only exception will be the AM class, with David Whitehouse right now is putting in an absolutely stellar performance down in P8 as they all come roaring on down the Bentley Straight. This time we can see Ollie Peters here in a battle with Matthew Addy and also Adam Delmont. Delmont coming through with Addy backing out, and as they make their way through Nelson Corner here at turn at number 10, it does look as though Adam Delmont just watching and waiting as they make their way in pursuit of Lee Holmes, who's just up the road as they come through Bomhole Corner. But as they make their way through the right-hander, now carpet towards Coram, you can see Delmont just taking that little peek to the inside here, looking for that potential opportunity. But right now, the Crest Autosport driver in front of him, holding on as Matthew Addy, the privateer, in P4. They're just ahead of Glenn Humberstone in the battle for the lead of what is the Pro-Am class as they snake their way through Murray Corner. And just behind them, it's that all too familiar face, Liam McNeely, our serial winner, looking to try and pick up another win as he charges across that timeline with just under 5 minutes this race complete. And now they make their way down towards turn 1, in towards Richards Corner. It's going to be a case that Humberstone's going to try and go round the outside of Addy as they make their way in the battle for P4. They come through, Humberstone holds the inside, also the outside I should say, Addy on the inside as they make their way through. You can see McNeely there trying to make it free wide as they make their way up in towards Wilson. He's going to go for it here, McNeely. This is brave, but he backs out in the end, realising it's going to taper way too much towards the apex of the hairpin. He goes to the cutback and he gets a 2-for-1 special, and as he makes his way out, can he get the job done as he comes up in towards Palmer Corner? Well, we see John Burnham's run wide there and brings himself back up to speed, and Burnham with another little moment. Well, what exactly happened here, Alex?
Heading into Wilson's here, it just seems he's gone wide. And is it a nudge from the rear? Yes, it is. And just letting go of the brakes there was the number 36 car of David Mcguire, our race 2 winner. And that just sends John Burnham off, and that could be a Stewart's inquiry later on. But we saw the move from Ollie Peters to get himself into second place. Can he catch up to Lee Holmes? Can he hold off Adam Delmont? And he actually, it looks like he just let by Adam Delmont there. He didn't seem to contend for that position all that much, so he might be trying to do this tactically. Let him by the Excite Racing driver who is in the fight for the championship, second in the championship into tonight. He's going to use Adam Delmont to try and catch up with Lee Holmes further up the road. He might believe that Delmont is the quicker driver, but also Liam McNeely is attacking. 20 places gained so far in this race already, and we're only 6 minutes in. Liam McNeely, you've got your money on him, and I've always said this to you, Paul, if you were at the Grand National with me, we'd do really well. But this horse right here is doing okay.
Oh, indeed, he's doing a fantastic job so far, McNeely. And just coming to that point with Ollie Peters, I think that was a very sensible choice by Ollie Peters there. Whilst we would love to see him battle, the fact I think he let Delmont go, I think he recognises he's well competed to finish at the top 5 come the end of the day and just get some solid points on the board. And right now, as we look to David Whitehouse here, the Ducks on livery machine, as it gives pursuit of what is Lee Horne ahead of him. Remember, of course, he's our AM leader right now, David Whitehouse, and only moments ago, this was him. Oh, goodness me, that was a moment there with David Mcguire, and he returned, and you could see there how it was Paul Scott, I think, who just had to take some very last-minute evasive action. And, well, it's unfortunate it happened through bomb hole corner, but it does happen there when you go too wide, and that bump in the road just absolutely shakes the car and the suspension about. But meanwhile, looking at Glenn Humberstone here, our Pro-Am leader at this point in time, he's opened up a 1-second advantage on Craig Cockrell, and he's keeping it very nice together right now, the 88 Tech driver. And this is where we'd like to see Humberstone. We'd like to see him just able to put those laps in. This is what works well for him. When he's got a little bit of clear space on track, he seems to just find that pace. And, well, it's been a while since we can say that he's been leading in the Pro-Am class. But here he is in race at number 3 as we get to the halfway point as he makes his way into Agostini. And, well, Cockrell will have something to say about it, but I think he's got to try and do something to close that gap up first, because right now that gap is not coming down, it's only staying stationary as they make their way through Hamilton.
Yeah, Glenn Humberstone hasn't won a race yet this season in the Pro-Am category. He had 2 seconds and a third at Bathurst, and that was his only podium finishes in the category this season. So very, very good start to this race so far, and a shorter race which presents the advantage to him, but he's got Craig Cockrell to worry about as he reels in the 88 Tech driver as wide. There goes Cockrell, pushing very hard, trying to get himself into that top spot. Craig Cockrell trying to get his championship back in order. He started off the season very close to the top spot. He now finds himself 5th and near 150 points down from the leader Lee Horne at this point in the championship, so he needs to get some big points tonight. Lee Horne, however, speaking of which, is there in 10th place, and he is right behind David Cunningham, another one of the biggest movers of the field. 18 places gained. Cunningham, he certainly is a driver we've got to keep an eye on as he gets more and more experience with iRacing and this league. We've seen him do very well on these channels in the race room leagues in the past as well. But meanwhile, back at the front, Liam McNeely blinking in and out a little bit there. Ping issues for him. The equivalent of an engine blow-up is the internet disconnection. Hopefully that does not happen to him. Ollie Peters, who was in the running, has fallen back a little bit. He just doesn't seem to have the pace. And I did see him post on Facebook earlier saying Snetterton is his least favourite of all the British circuits. So quite the statement, but it just shows that Ollie Peters is not fully comfortable on this track and will take other tracks all day long. But he's getting a good result here nonetheless. 4th place in category, good points for him to maintain his top 10 in the championship. Holmes leads at the moment though, and I'm just about to find out if Lee Holmes has won a race this season. I do seem to remember that he has, and it was race 2 at the Red Bull Ring is his last win in this category.
McNeely's looking for the move into Agostini. Sorry, the cut across Alex as he goes to move up the inside at Delmont. As he comes to free, gets that position very smoothly, pushes it to the full width of the circuit, and now only 7 stands between him and potentially Robin Lee Holmes of that win that he'd love to cover as they make their way out of Hamilton and up towards Oggie's corner here. And as they come on through, well, McNeely is just showing no halting at that pace. It's just relentless how he's pursuing down the lead right now. And as he comes on through, well, I can also tell you in the battle for the Pro-Am lead, Glenn Humberstone has been reeled in to 4 tenths of a second now by Craig Cockrell, and it is the case that those two will be coming together soon as we look to them. And Humberstone holding on for now, but you can imagine that Cockrell will only get more motivation now that he is much closer. He could almost reach out and touch the Mazda MX-5 in front of him as they make the way down towards Brundle and Nelson. Into 9 and 10 they go, and as they make the way in, we look back towards the leaders here, and we can see Adam Delmont giving that pursuit still. And I think the iRacing driver will be hoping that McNeely and Holmes can squabble a bit, and he can perhaps sneak the win at the very end when the checkered flag falls. But meanwhile, a bit further back, Matthew Addy here in P20. Looking for a move up the inside here, Ben Bennyworth, as they come on through it and as they make the way in towards Brundle. We can see just up the road Mikey Doble here as he comes through turn number 10, and as they all sweep on through, Bennyworth holding on to P19. But Mathioli's going to try it here into bomb hole corner, going to be very, very brave as they make the way on through. You can see just behind there, Sam Smith wanting to get on the action. He'll be getting frustrated that he's having to wait and be compromised on pace as they come through Cunningham corner, and now only approximately 2 more laps to go.
Yeah, it's flown by. This race has. For a minute I thought, oh, is that 25 minutes already? It is, and it's a 15-minute race just because of all the goings on here. But we haven't had the safety car, which is good to see. But we are going to have 2 laps in this race where it's going to be a Royal Rumble between Lee Holmes and Liam McNeely here. Holmes has got all the work to do here of defending off the notorious Liam McNeely here. Safely the fastest driver in this series right now. He's just in a world of his own with almost a 100% record. He has had what is it called? It's 6 wins in 8 as he takes to the inside, going into Agassini. To the hairpin he goes, and it's a big move from McNeely to take the lead. Holmes couldn't do anything about it. He was isolated on the outside there. He just had to surrender and see if he can get him back on a future corner here, Paul.
Indeed, I think that's what Lee Holmes is hoping for, is that he can find a way to get back at McNeely. But now here's the problem. Delmont's looking for that opportunity, and that's what Adam Delmont waited for. He didn't battle with McNeely because what he was hoping is that McNeely would give him the opportunity to go after Holmes. I think Adam Delmont will now try and unleash the pace. It hasn't worked for Delmont either. He hasn't been able to capitalise now as they make the way down the Bentley straight here, down that back straight. Will we see Delmont peel to the inside? Well, it's the case. We look to Mikey Doble here trying to find his way past the other Ford Zilla machine, but we look back to the leaders and you can see now Delmont pulling on in. It's the case though, it's going to be McNeely who defends in the middle of the road. Lee Holmes getting a little bit wrong there, and he goes high and loses the rear of the car, but just about brings it back under control through Nelson here. They're all running right on the ragged edge, but McNeely able to just put that car in a way which has prevented the other 2 drivers of Holmes and Delmont from being able to get in. In fact, it's caused the 3 of them to space out by about half a second to each driver, and that is perfect for McNeely because I think he was hoping that he'd be able to just gap Holmes and then just run away with things. And now can he do it on what will be, I believe he'll have 1 more lap after this. We may be able to creep on to an extra 2 laps. We'll have to wait to see as they come across that timeline. It's going to be very nip and tuck here. We may only have 1 more lap and the white flag will be out as we see a little bit further back. Well, we're hearing that Glenn Humberstone has had the mother of all instances dropping down the order, and well, what has happened to the other 88 Tech machine?
We'll find out, but this could be game over for Glenn Humberstone. It seems to be a battle with the number 8 car of John Higgins there, heading into the final corner. It's a nudge from the rear from John Higgins. We've seen that from John earlier on in the night with, I believe it was William Chadwick, but that ruins the chances of Glenn Humberstone there, sends him well down the order, down to 5th in category, 12th overall. Real unfortunate for him. He's driving such a good race. It does promote Craig Cockrell into the top spot, and into 2nd place goes Rob Mcgregor. We said it earlier on in this stream, the driver of the day last time out at Monza. Well, he's just there picking up big positions yet again. Lee Horne here in 3rd position, another good result for him. Towards the top, Liam McNeely. Well, we saw Holmes and Delmont battling together earlier on the last lap, and that has just sent McNeely away. He's basically been given a get out of jail free card here, and he's able to break away and gap these 2 drivers here, Paul.
Oh, indeed, and as they make their way through Williams' corner now, the question will really be, because this is the final lap as we understand it, can either of them try to reel in McNeely? Well, they've got the long straight here, but the gap they're reeling in half a second when they came onto the straight. I mean, if they are going to go for it, it's going to be the mother of all lunges as they come down in towards Nelson, and as they make their way through Brundle up into Nelson corner. I don't think either of them will go for it, but you can see Delmont there trying to get as close as possible under braking. He wants that opportunity into the final corners if there is a mistake from Lee Holmes, but as they all come through bomb hole, I think it is the case right now. Our top 3 are going to finish as they are, as they all push through Cunningham corner. Again, it only takes 1 tiny mistake and could upset the balance as they make their way through turn number 12. 1 more corner remains as they make the one through, but at the head of the packet is Liam McNeely. It's 1 corner, he clears it, and that's all about getting that run to the finish line here. The checkered flag is out, and it will mean that we are going to finish the race in this lap. And well, he's come through the order, and it is going to be Liam McNeely who takes the win in the end in race number 3 ahead of Lee Holmes and Adam Delmont. That is your pro podium and your overall podium. It will be Ollie Peters in the end with a brilliant drive to P4 in the back of your picture as he comes on across. And then, well, what about John Higgins as he comes across the line? He does in P5, and Craig Cockrell takes the win in the pro Pro-Am class there, a deserved win for the number 11 driver, and he just kept it together and kept his head down and got on with it, and it shows. And a great result from him. It's going to be, meanwhile, Paul Scott, who takes the win in the AM class, and I do believe, unless I'm mistaken, Alex, that's his maiden win, or at least it's win for a long time from the NXTGEN Racing driver as he comes across that line, and a brilliant performance from Paul Scott.
Yeah, last win came Bathurst race 1, so well done Paul Scott. He did miss Monza's meeting, but Bathurst was his last win. A big congratulations to him. He's got himself back on that top spot, and big points in the category for him. It's going to be quite difficult for him to catch up with Dave Whitehouse with all those points behind, but drop rounds might help. We'll see. Paul Scott, all he can do now is just get the points on the board, which he has done today and done so well.
Well, as they all make the way on round right now, cooling down here. I think some drivers may be thinking they're still racing, given the fact that they were expected a 25-minute race. But I think the majority have got the message. The checkered flag has waved, and therefore it's time to come back into the pits. Of course, not the race all of us were expecting. We were expecting a 25-minute race, but due to technical difficulties, it's been called as 15 minutes. But still, a 15-minute race, which actually provided us with a lot of racing action from start to finish, and really actually compounded what we were hoping to see in races 1 and 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Drivers thought, right, 15 minutes, hammer down. And it's relatively similar to races 1 and 2, where they can just absolutely bolt it and go for the win and the big positions in these races. So we saw that from Liam McNeely, and that was no stress to him. 25 minutes or 15 minutes, he finds his way up 23 places to the top spot yet again. But we are going to have some interviews very, very shortly. And actually, we have got one driver already in the waiting room for us, but it would be good to speak to some of the winning drivers of tonight's categories, particularly Craig Cockrell and Liam McNeely. But, yeah, well, an interesting nights of racing there, Paul. It was, it's flown by, actually, and we didn't actually get a lot of green flag racing. It's rather peculiar.
Oh, indeed, and it's sometimes the way it goes, to be fair, in terms of at certain circuits in Snetterton. Well, a little bit surprised at Snetterton. I thought it would have been perhaps a bit more green flag than yellow flag, but when it does happen, you have to take the racing when it's available, and many a driver was able to do that in the end. With the fact, as we see the safety car, the coloured safety car making its way on through, I'm going to keep that in my mind now whenever I see it. I think it's one of those ones where some drivers were able to make it work, and other drivers were perhaps caught a little bit shy with regards to the fact they didn't have as much racing time as they would have liked. But here are the race results. They are in. Over to you, Alex.
Yeah, we'll go through these results before we head over to the interviews. Liam McNeely takes a win, another win, 7 from 9. He's had this season. Absolutely fantastic. Lee Holmes, second position. Valiant effort to try and get the win, but it was not to be just for him. Third position. Adam Delmont takes third position from Ollie Peterson, fourth. John Higgins, fifth, with Craig Cockrell in sixth. Maurice Henry, seventh from Rob Mcgregor in eighth position. Craig Cockrell, by the way, getting the win in the Pro-Am category. Lee Horne takes third in category and ninth overall, with Nick Clevens in 10th. David Cunningham takes 11th with a big gain up the field, 16 places gained, with Glenn Hamilton, who led most of the race in the Pro-Am category, takes 12th in the end. Mikey Doble, slightly below par result for him, but 13th for him nonetheless, and that'll be 8th in category. William Chadwick in 9th, with Jamie Dory in 10th in category, 15th overall. Winner of the Pro-Am category, Paul Scott, takes 16th overall. A good night's racing for him indeed, with Ben Bennyworth in 17th, Sam Smith 18th. With John Burnham in 19th, Matthew Addy 20th, David Whitehouse 21st, Matt Emmons in 22nd, with Nigel Stock taking 23rd, a quiet night for him. Mark Arrowsmith 24th, who won a race earlier on in the night. Callum Jenkins in 25th, 26th going to Mark Oliver, and David Mcguire rounding off the finishes in 27th. So that has been the results of race 3, and we are going to get, well, we've got a fair few interviews waiting for us. So without further ado, we'll actually bring in the winner of race 3 and the winner of race 1. Liam McNeely, you have done it again. Absolutely blown away the field with some superb driving. I'm getting a bit bored of asking the same questions. So what in particular was the highlight of tonight for you?
I'll probably say coming through the field from 24th. I sort of, when the 15-minute sort of was said instead of 25th, I thought there was no chance coming through the field. But you know, I think with some people having some issues and some contact, I managed to pick a few people, and yeah, I managed to managed to overtake a few people and get to the front pack.
Yeah, it just 23 places gained in that race. Superb driving through the field. And we're just watching the replay here of you getting through the field, and you just managed to avoid all the drama. There's a little bit of contact towards the beginning there with your teammate Will. But yeah, it's been quite a strange night in terms of cautions, in terms of them being quite a lot of them tonight. Did that particularly phase you at all tonight?
Yeah, I think there was a point in race 2 where there was a caution, and I think I was like 9th at the time, and I didn't think there was going to be much opportunity to gain any positions. But I think the cautions definitely do help. They slow down the pace. But I made the mistake where I didn't know sort of the regulations about the safety car. I didn't realise you could keep overtaking. So I definitely think that hindered a few positions. But yeah, overall very happy with tonight.
Interesting to hear that about the safety car. Yeah, it was a bit strange for us as well, but it went well other than you losing a few positions. But we've got Zandvoort coming up next. How is that track for yourself?
I've done a league race around there before in the Mazda, so I think it'll be quite interesting with the overtaking. But I think it'll be a good track to get the Mazdas. I think there's going to be a few high-speed corners that people will have to deal with. So I think, yeah, overall I think it'd be a good track to race with.
Excellent stuff. And before we shoot off, Liam, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Family, friends, fans, sponsors?
Yeah, well, I like to thank Chadwick. He gave me a cheeky toe in qualifying, so really happy with that, and also Fordzilla. They've done a good job. And just Will, my teammate, he done a good job in qualifying, giving me the toe to secure me pole, so that was good.
Great stuff, great stuff. Well, thank you very much, Liam. And speaking of which, we're actually going to speak to William Chadwick now. New to the series today, Will, and a very, very impressive line of results there. Tell us, in your words, how did your night go?
Oh, it was quite fun. I'm sure you noticed on the first start that I actually had my wheel turned the wrong way, which didn't help. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. A lot of fun and an absolutely monumental race with Mikey Doble in that last one, which made up for the fact that we had a bit of contact at the start and it put us out of it, unfortunately. Yeah, just a bit far back really to come through in the last race. But I did really enjoy the racing, and just a shame with a few bits of contact, and we might have actually had a win tonight.
Yeah, potentially. And actually, I just want to cast your mind back to the race 2 finish. It was quite something. But just kind of talk us through what happened in that race 2 finish from the point you were approaching the final corner.
Well, it was side-by-side action between Liam and Maurice, and you know they're always, if they're going into the last corner side-by-side, they're always going to end up deep or end up just trying to get each of them trying to get as best a run as possible. And just got to the inside and tried to outdrag him the best I could, but didn't quite get it in the end. But it was a lot of fun and very close. I actually think it was equal. Between Liam and Maurice. I had a look at the end, and it was incredibly close. Fantastic finish.
Yeah, we had a look as well. It did look as good as even 3,000 second or 5,000 second, something like that. Very, very close indeed. Well, we've seen you in the Legends Cup before in Next Gen Racing, and we've seen you here tonight. Assuming we're going to see you at Zandvoort, hint hint, how is that track for yourself?
Zandvoort's probably an underused track on this service. I mean, it takes a lot of driver skill, I think. I think Zandvoort's going to be slightly harder to pass, but then again, these MX-5s are always easy to tussle and find your way past. You know, a bit of touring car manoeuvres, bit of a bump and run. But yeah, it's always a good fun in the MX-5s, and I think it'll produce some really good racing.
Yeah, we've got that caught on camera now, so no taking that back.
There was quite a few bumps and runs in that race, but it's all part of racing at the end of the day.
Exactly. It's what we enjoy seeing. Good, hard but fair racing. Before you head off, Will, anybody you want to give a shout out to? Fans, friends, family, sponsors?
Liam McNeely for just being awesome. Also gave me a little bit of a toe in quali as well, which was really helpful. Thanks for Fordzilla for opportunities and just helping me through sim racing, and and starting off this year really well. And yeah, thank you to Next Level Sim Rigs as well.
Great stuff, Will. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much, Will. Good racing tonight.
Thank you, Alex.
So, yeah, the two Fordzilla drivers interviewing there, and they are very much the Godzilla of this series at the moment. They're just stomping on everyone, aren't they, Paul?
Oh, indeed, they seem to be absolutely on the pace, regardless of where they start. They come through the order very rapidly. I think Manini just having a very slight advantage over Chadwick, but Chadwick not that far behind. You can see it in the way they're approaching the race, and indeed, particularly in race number 3, we saw them coming up through the field. And well, it's unfortunate in the end that Chadwick had the contact with Doble, because as he was saying, they could have been right up there in the battle for the top spots. But that's the way it goes sometimes. But in the end, there was some good racing between them, all said and done. But really, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on in the remaining 4 rounds, because if that's the pace they're bringing to the table night in, night out, imagine if they'd started the season with everybody else.
I agree, and it all remains to be seen as the season goes by. But Paul's going to interview our next interviewee, and it's someone I've been meaning to we've been meaning to interview for a long time. It's Maurice Henry. Maurice, quite an impressive night for you tonight.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a good night pace-wise. Feel like I had a good pace. Just not been as lucky in the races. But overall, I feel like we can come away positive, knowing that we had the pace, and kind of looking forward to Zandvoort, to be honest.
Well, indeed, and just taking things back and dissecting things up a step, Maurice. So in qualifying didn't quite go perhaps the way you wanted it in terms of the translation into race number 1, but it's almost as if what wasn't there in qualifying really came alive from the start of the racing, albeit we did have a couple of safety cars thrown in there, particularly races 1 and 2. But just take us through, what was your approach going into race number 1? Obviously, everybody trying to get used to the nature of the car, the nature of the race conditions and whatnot, but you seem to be absolutely flying off the blocks.
Yeah, so I knew I had a bit more pace in me in qualifying. Qualifying didn't really represent my true pace. I just didn't really hook the lap up together. So from the race I knew that I just needed to just try and make up as much positions as possible. So race 1 is pretty good. Just an unfortunate, I think it was a collision ahead. And then the safety car came out, and just before the line I think everyone kind of got bunched up, which meant that I had to avoid the car, and the game kind of gave me a penalty for overlapping, which is disappointing because we came back through to 6th. And then race 2 was really good. I started 24th and come through to 2nd. One more lap and maybe would have had the lead, but it was a nice battle with Liam towards the end, because it was pretty close actually going across the line. I thought he had actually had me, but it turns out I managed to just get the position. Hopefully it'll be that close as well in real life, as because he's my teammate in the Junior Juniors as well, so that was good. And then race 3, it was just a bit unfortunate that I got taken out on lap 1, as we had strong pace, and I feel like I could have just been up there with Liam, as I was behind him at the time. But all in all, just looking forward to Zandvoort, because I know it would be quite a nice track, as I've done a race there as well.
Oh, indeed. And just coming back to that point about race number 2, whilst you finished 2nd overall, that was, as I understand it, a win in the Pro Class. What was going through your mind in the run-up towards the finish line? Because that is one of the closest, if not the closest finish we have seen all season. In the end, you and Liam McNeely being separated by only 5 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, I mean, that was really crazy. As I was going across the line, I was kind of just like rocking my sim, just saying like, come on. But luckily, the little master gave me enough power to just pip Liam by, I think it was 3 thousandths or something like that. So yeah, it was quite intense last lap, because I managed to keep a like sort of a big enough gap just before the back straight, and then managed to hold him off. But yeah, it's good.
Oh, well, it's fantastic, and fantastic to see out of the circuit. Really enjoying it out there. And as you were saying with regards to Zandvoort, a circuit which looking forward to in a week's time. But just as well as that, before we leave you be, is there anyone you'd like to say thank you to live on air?
Yeah, I just literally give it just a shout out to Liam and Chadwick. They let me tow them in quali, just managed to hook up my lap. And big shout out to Fox Motorsport. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us in the interview room, Maurice, and we look forward to seeing you back out on circuit in a week's time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
There you are, Alex. I think he really was enjoying himself out now. I think ruining at the same time what could have been in some of the races, but I mean, Maurice Henry, much like some other drivers, really promising, and the pace is just there. It just seems to be switched on. If it's not in qualifying, in race number 1, he's immediately out of the blocks.
Yeah, he's. I think in these last few races, particularly Monza and particularly here, he's put himself into what I call, what I like to call the A-list tier. Those A-list drivers that are just there and above all of us. You know, he's up there with the likes of Chadwick. He's up there with McNeely. He's up there with Delmont. You know, he's going to win more races as the season goes by. I'm absolutely sure about that. We've got time for one more interview, Paul. I'm going to let you take your pick.
Well, I think out of the two that are in the interview waiting room, whilst I would love to go with Mcgregor, we have had him in a couple of times. So I think it'd be good to bring Matt Emmons in, because we haven't heard from him before in this series. So we bring Matt into the room. Good evening to you, Matt. And I've got to ask, how was it out there in the Mazda MX-5 at Snetterton? It seemed to be quite chaotic in the midfield, and you were right in the heart of a lot of the action.
It was really slippy, if I'm honest. It felt like driving on an ice rink with McDonald's trays under the back wheels. It was really quite a struggle.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I get the feeling your car must be sponsored by McDonald's if you're making reference to their trays underneath the car. But jokes aside, a bit of a difficult evening for yourself. A number of races and even qualifying, perhaps not going quite to plan. But in qualifying, it was quite a neat lap that you hooked up. Was that everything you thought you could deliver out there? Or was it the case it was a bit more out on circuit and you couldn't quite find the time?
I'll be honest, I'm still a bit like a newbie to these. I'm not driven them since, well, I think it was about, I was a rookie, so I'm trying to get back into the swing of these and finding some pace. I'm struggling with a bit at the minute, but I must admit I'm learning as I'm racing, and I'm thankful to everyone to allow me to race as hard as I can with them.
Oh, indeed. I think it's being appreciated up and down the field, because whilst at the end of the day you haven't been with the series since the start, having you out on the circuit and great at battling up and down. And we saw in particular in race number 1, you tried to make some gains, but all of a sudden that sudden impact of the safety car, which took away over half of the race. Where were you in all of that? Because we saw a number of drivers decide to go for the gamble and putting the fresh tyres on by going into the pits, but it looked as though you sort of found yourself somewhere in amongst the mix but couldn't quite capitalise on it.
Yeah, I think I went from 27th to 12th or 13th, and I thought, well, I'm not going to risk going into the pits or anything like that. I'll just gamble and try and get the 12th place reverse grid. And yeah, I just put my head down and went, drove as fast as I could.
Well, indeed, and whilst it didn't quite work out in the end in terms of giving you that potential pole position for the reverse grid for race 2, it's still a valiant effort. And in race number 2, another race blighted by a major incident on the opening laps, and the safety car was a bit shorter. Were you thinking to yourself at that point, oh, here we go again, it's race number 1 repeated?
No, not at all. I was thinking, right, well, I've moved. I think I'm in 8th or something like that. I think I was at the time, and I thought I just need to get my head down and look in the mirror and keep myself here. And I think that kind of went wrong for me, to say the least.
Oh, indeed, it was. It did go a bit wrong. However, it gave you some opportunities going into race number 3, albeit it wasn't quite the 25-minute race we were all hoping for, but still 15 minutes of action, and you're right in there in the mix. And how did it feel with the sun coming down and the circuit just not providing that grip that everyone's looking for?
Well, I think I lost the back end coming out of, I think it was Hamilton, onto the back straight, and I think that was pretty much my race ruined. I managed to claw 3 or 4 spaces back up, but it wasn't anything to do with the temperatures. I was just pushing a bit too hard on cold tyres, if I'm honest.
Oh, it's unfortunate, but still all the same, pressing on to the finish line, which is what we love to see. And looking ahead to a week's time, we head to the Dutch circuit at Zandvoort. How are you feeling for the very fast-paced circuit, but very twisted and tight at the same time?
I'll be honest, quite worried. I've never driven a lap round it yet, so I'm going to have to get some practice in after I've done a few things this week.
Oh, indeed. But before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or to say thank you to live on air?
I'd like to say thank you to you two for doing an excellent job, and thanks to NXTGEN and Jamie and everyone for letting me take part tonight.
Oh, that's no problem at all. We do appreciate it, but thank you for joining us in the interview room, and we look forward to seeing you in a week's time at Zandvoort.
Thank you.
Well, Alex, he did seem to be quite enjoying himself, even if race 3 did not go his way. Matt Emmons there, who we heard from, and indeed, well, in the very distinct orange and pink liveried NXTGEN racing machine, and I think he could be one to watch at Zandvoort.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to be too hard on himself. I thought he did pretty good there. In race 2, I think it was, he was really contending towards the top spots there. Another part-timer who's done very well tonight is Matthew Addy. Yeah, both Matts today have done very, very well in the Pro-Am category, respectively. So, yeah, taking the hats off to them. These are hard cars to drive, particularly on a track like this, where I've seen someone mention in Discord already that it just seems that this track is so low on grip at times, and in these cars, when you've not got that much grip, it's all the more difficult. So yeah, hats off to the guys particularly the guys who are less experienced in these cars. They've done a good job tonight.
Oh, indeed. I think it is one of those challenges because just to give everybody a little bit of context there, if you're wondering, when they talk about having driven this car in a long time or since I started out in iRacing, the Mazda MX-5 is the very first car that you get access to for road racing within the iRacing simulator experience. It's normally the starting league or the rookie league, but there's always a recurring league which you see a lot of very competitive and professional drivers racing, and that is the Fanatec MX-5 Cup. And these cars, whilst they may be straightforward in terms of they don't have that much engine power, but they are race cars at the end of the day, and they're very fast and very furious and require a lot of time and effort to master. It's not just a case of pick up and play with these machines, if any race car machine in road racing.
Yeah, they're a cult favourite on iRacing, and it was the first car I ever drove on iRacing. I remember driving these cars at Lime Rock Park for the first time on a very, very cheap Thrustmaster steering wheel and not a very good PC, and it really does take you by surprise how difficult to drive these things are, despite how slow they are, to be honest, compared to most cars that you can drive on iRacing. It's quite a baptism of fire almost. But yeah, great to get involved in the MX-5 series, and this is this is certainly a series to get involved in if you wish to. But speaking of which, this is the season we're undergoing. You can get involved at this point in the season if you wish to. Just sign up at nextgenracing.co.uk or join NextGen Racing's Facebook group or join NextGen Racing's Discord, either or, to get involved in the series. But we have got Zanva up next in a week from today on Valentine's Day, so yeah, if you can't watch, we'll know why. But we'll hopefully see you there in a week's time, and then in 3 weeks from today, it'll be round 10 Interlagos, and then the 7th of March will be Long Beach, and the final round of the championship on the 14th of March will be at the Nürburgring VLN circuit. Plenty left in the season, and plenty of racing to get involved in. Plenty of racing to watch as well here on Next Gen Racing TV and Crest Autosport TV. Thank you very much for watching tonight. I've been Alex Everett, and alongside me, Paul Walsh. It's a day done here in the UK, and we head over the sea to Netherlands for the next round of the championship. We'll see you then. Thank you very much. Good night.